about ready.
I get up now, my phone's cracked. Good morning, and I said,
Okay, everybody.
All right, we're live.
oh,
We're live.
I never used to do this.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
You know we're live.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole meeting of the Village of Walton Hills, Thursday, October 28th, 2021, at 7:03 p.m. Roll call.
Councilwoman Allen,
Here.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Here.
Councilman Linville.
Present.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon.
Present.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Here.
All council present, along with our fiscal officer, Angela Rivet, and our law solicitor, John Montello. Item 3, and we are live streaming the meeting. We're going to try to live stream
We
all of it.
are. I'm just trying. There we go. I was going to say. I'm trying to get to
We can
my.
wait a few minutes.
I hit stream. I'm trying to get to where the chat is set up because
Okay.
I was thinking over here. Duplicate stream entry. Change dashboard. Let's try
Seems
that.
to be going pretty well. We're getting positive feedback on it, so that's a good thing.
Okay, there we go. I think we're in business.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so any residents watching or non-residents? We're having our committee of the whole meeting. Okay, item 3 is comments related to agenda items / persons having business before council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
generally speaking, not necessarily the agenda items here, we had Soren Buddha in this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, and he upped the volume controls and
okay.
the settings for the meetings, for the streaming. So we did get a couple residents saying they couldn't hear, and I tried with my computer. I logged on to last week's meeting, and it was low in terms of volume.
Okay.
So two things that would help. He did, like I say, up it in the settings, and it did appear to work well. But if we could all make sure we're speaking into the microphones and not speaking over each other, and that will help out a lot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Soren, Mr. Mayor, Soren did say that to make sure everybody, like Mr. Montello and yourself, and any residents, he said if they're sitting, they're not going to get picked up, so everybody really should be coming to the microphone and making sure that you're speaking into the microphone because it'll pick it up better. It gets too much feedback on the recording if anyone starts to overspeak somebody else, and it just gets lost.
Okay. We'll take note of that. Since I see you looking at me and Mr. Spitznagel looking at me the whole time.
And Mr. Montello.
I guess I'm the guilty party, so.
All right, John, turn your mic toward yourself a little more.
All right.
There you go.
All right, but I think we can correct that. We certainly want everybody to hear and hear clearly, so appreciate getting that turned up for the residents too. All right, our first item there, item 4, discussion about public.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to come on up to the mic, Mr. Harkey?
Hello, is it working?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Denny Harkey, 7120 Hickory Drive.
Let me see if I can put that a little closer. Can't hear yourself through this.
We can hear him.
Yeah, I think it was going pretty good though.
Can I hear my, yes?
Yep, we can hear him.
Okay.
That's the key, you can hear yourself.
Whoops, okay.
You can't hear yourself.
A smart person always knows the right thing to say, and a wise person knows when to say it. It's time for me to say something for the record. And I know hearing this will make some people very happy. For several years, about 17 and a half or so, I have argued with some folks about the enforcement of zoning codes on our public square. In life, sometimes such as now, it's important to know when to stop arguing with people and just simply let them be wrong.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, and also we'll ask for comments after each item too. Anything from anybody?
Nothing yet
watching?
on the live stream.
How many people, can you see? How many?
4 viewers.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yep.
All right, any comments from council? Okay. So we'll move on to item 4, discussion about public hearing for community development block grant. You received a packet from Joe that was sent to me. We did this last year, the year before. Actually, last year we didn't receive it.
Mm-hmm, we did.
And
2
we
years.
did
Yeah.
the repairs in Hannon Parkway and the Crick Road area, the concrete repairs. So now it's our annual CDBG application. They're due January 7th, so for 22. We're applying for the $150,000 like we did last year, and there's also we're also applying for a additional 50 under the CDSG program, and that would be used for the exact same concrete repairs. Just putting it out there, you can read this, it's all there. But what we'd like to have, as you see, Joe kind of gave us, you know, the order we should go, and that is we'll need to have a public hearing, even though we're just applying for grants, just in case any residents or anybody has comment on that. So we would have it a week from this Tuesday, you know, our first COW meeting before the COW meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
actually,
On
that
the-
public notice, on that public notice, it says November 2nd, but our first meeting.
The
is
9th is
going
what
to be
Joe
the 9th.
requested, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
have
on
to-
the
we have to-
actual public notice, it says November 2nd.
But I think he
Well,
was
we
just-
haven't put it out yet, though.
that was just an example of one.
Yeah, we haven't put it out.
That was our last, I think he just gave us, that was Tuesday,
No, that's the current one, because it's got 2021 and 2022.
well, yeah, but he was just giving an example. We haven't
Right,
put anything out.
that's his sample.
Because we have to give a week's notice to it.
Sure, but I'm just saying, so we've had.
It will be
that
updated,
that
right.
date needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, before it goes to the papers, it would.
Yeah, this was just to kind of give us a template and stuff, but no problem, yeah, that's, so, I would ask, we'll have the public meeting before, you know, it would be at 7 o'clock, it would just be before the COW meeting on Tuesday. And we'll have our sign-in sheet and everything, and we'll advertise it like we did before, and then we'll talk about it. I'll probably have Joe here. But it will just be designated, as you know, it's just for our industrial area. It's funds that can't be used in our residential area. They're designated just for those areas. So, just wanted to put it out there if anybody has any questions on that.
Yeah, Mayor Collier?
Yes.
Yeah, I just one question not on the actual program, but on the scope of work and whether or not that's already, so for the public hearing, is the scope of work already drafted? And what particular, you know, areas of Hannon Parkway and Crick Road, is that already crafted? And the other question is whether or not this potential work includes, the scope of work includes catch basin replacements like we did with the 2020, utilizing the other cost share, 25% cost share money from the NEOR. I know that's not necessarily part of the application.
Right.
Just want to try to get an understanding of what the actual scope of work looks like for this project.
So
before-
Joe,
Since there is a public hearing.
Yes. Well, we'll be able to answer that. We can
Yeah, Joe can explain that, because I'm sure when we apply, we need to probably lay out the scope of work.
Yeah, to an extent, as long
Right.
as it's within that area.
Right.
Okay.
We will get that covered. Hopefully we'll be successful again. That would be good. And then we'll need legislation draft and pass on that, you know, and pass that, but I don't see no problem with that. Be nice to pass it in our November meeting, so then we can get our application in. If everybody's comfortable with that, I don't see no problem with that. being aggressive on grants is a positive thing, so. Okay,
Mayor Kohler,
Yes.
I did have one more question.
yes.
So this, this targeted, improvement target area, that we are applying under for this program, does the other, small industrial area off of, Alexander Road, east of Northwood Road, does this also fall into this designation? I think it's called Industrial Parkway?
Yeah, you mean by the credit union,
Yes.
NPK and stuff?
Although it's not that big of a parkway or industrial parkway, does it qualify also?
I'm not sure, because it doesn't mention that road, as you see, it actually mentions Hannah Parkway and Crick Road area. So let me ask Joe on that too. Any other questions related to the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, and the Community Development Supplemental Grant, which is the extra $50,000? And I'll probably have Joe here, or, you know, via the computer, and, but I'll get most of these answered. We'll get these answered here, and then we'll have the. Okay, any residents, any
Nothing here.
comments on that?
Nothing here.
Nothing there? Okay, all right. Then we'll move on to item 5. That's legislation. That's for ordinance 2021-18 notes. That would be new money for the road program. I know we talked about it in our COW meeting and our council meeting last week. So it's here. I know we need to have some discussion on it. And then, do I need to, there's an ordinance here, also ordinance B. I'm gonna kind of put those together, because I think we'll probably end up talking about them as a whole, because I really think it relates to the financing.
What are we talking about, the roof one?
Well, we're gonna talk, I'm just gonna, the other ordinance 2021-19, that's also for notes for new money, and that would be for the Village Hall roof.
Yes.
Okay, so, Angela, did you wanna kind of?
I can actually let them take it. I mean, infrastructure met, discussed potentially moving Barclay Estates up. And so we had legislation redrafted from Bricker, to include the extra $375,000 for Barclay Estates. Roof hasn't changed. That's, you know, that legislation is what it is, strictly for the roof. So as you look at the new money for the road program, that's gonna include everything that we discussed originally on the 2022 road program, plus the streets in Barclay Estates.
Well, let's go through that. So that would include
It's gonna include,
the horseshoe, correct?
right, that's gonna, yeah, so in general terms, that's gonna include the horseshoe,
Which
that-
is Chestnut,
hickory, and tulip
okay.
for repaving after the water main is
After the
fixed
water
with the
main
grant.
repair.
And then that's going to include some of the supplemental, so like our part with this, you know, when we get our grants for like community development block grant or some other things, we pay a little portion on some of those, so that's gonna include that for crack sealing and repairs.
I think that
That's,
was a question somebody
that's
had.
part of the 2022 that I gave you from Joe.
Right?
I'm trying to think of what else is big on there. We won't have striping really in there. I didn't pull my sheet from Joe with me, I'm sorry if you got yours. Yeah. You want me to look since
Yeah.
I got slightly
You got it.
newer eyes, but not that much newer. Right, so we have an anticipated $75,000 that we will spend on our county road maintenance. That's, you know, we will get a grant of 150 hopefully, and then we'll still spend 75.
I'm sorry, Angela, on what road is that?
That's just gonna be Dunham, Walton, Egbert, Sagamore, and Alexander, that's crack sealing, spot repairs
Okay.
type of
I
stuff,
see where you're
okay?
at.
Yeah, so we're looking at, so everybody knows.
Yeah,
we're
I'm looking at the
road
sheet I gave you
program.
from Joe.
Right.
Crack
Talking
sealing,
21 or 22?
2022. We're already in 21, so none of this would be for 21. This is the new sheet I gave you 2 weeks ago. For Jefferson, Somerset, Delwood, McClellan, also crack sealing, that's approximately 30,000 out of our pocket. And then we've also, that's actually it. Everything else that's on this sheet would have been net zero to us, so if we get the block grant, we would, have zero cost out of pocket. South Meadow Park culvert is also something that we would hopefully get a grant for from the sewer district, so then that's gonna not have any out of pocket as well. And then we've already got the grant money for the water main replacement on Tulip that's listed on that program for 2022, so no out of pocket on that piece. So the main portion here obviously being the horseshoe at $257,000 approximately.
And then, what?
And then we added in Barclay Estates for $375,000, and so that would include your streets in that development, which are Regency, Rochelle, Laurel, and Colonial Court.
So I just have one quick question. So for this, for this legislation, does all of the potential roads have to be listed?
They have to be listed,
Okay,
yes.
because horseshoe is, I don't see the horseshoe.
The horseshoe is in here in terms of, as a matter of fact, I did give it to her, so hold on, it should be in here. Improving Dunham, Sagamore, Alexander. I'll have to look and see if she has it in my first copy, because she did ask me she asked for repaving though, so that could be covered under repaving. And then when I told her about crack sealing and spot repairs, that's where they list the main roads instead of actually saying crack sealing and spot repairs on here.
So would it hurt to actually make sure those roads are named? I mean, is that?
I don't think it would hurt, but I'm gonna let you know that this needs to get passed tonight, or we don't have
We
a
can
chance
make
to
it
do it.
amended.
But we can
Right,
amend it if
right.
you
You
need
can- we
to.
can add those.
I don't see
Yeah,
that
I
it would
mean-
matter.
Okay, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I can add them in. I don't think she had them listed initially either, though, because like I said, the whole repaving part of it, purpose of improving.
Mayor,
Yes,
the Horseshoe, Barclay, and County Road
She
add
may
up
have
to
to-
707,000. Where's the other 60?
What are you looking at?
The Horseshoe,
Yeah.
Barclay, and the County Road project that you mentioned add up to 707,000.
Right, so if you remember, I rounded up, so our road program was estimated to be at 362,000, just like Barclay's estimated to be at 375. So when I originally brought legislation to you a couple weeks ago, or the idea, I rounded up to 400,000 in anticipation of any extra, things that might need. And this would also cover, so if there's extra crack sealing somewhere that comes up or anything like that, then the legislation's gonna cover that. The main projects need to be listed and be more specific, but that way we've got that cushion.
But that's a $68,000 cushion.
If we're at 362, that shouldn't be, this was at 362, so I had it at 400, that's not a $60,000 cushion.
257,000 for Barclay plus 370, I'm sorry, for the Horseshoe, plus 375 for Barclay is $632,000.
Don't forget 75 on our county road maintenance and 30 on the others. It's
Yeah,
all-
hold on, I'm getting there, please. 75,000 for the county road, that equals $707,000. What else did you add in there?
There's 30,000 on there for Jefferson, Somerset, Delwood, and
Okay.
McClellan as well. That's crack sealing, so that's why those aren't listed in specificity on the
Yeah,
legislation.
they should be,
So
in
that-
my opinion.
Well, they
that
won't. So
are.
here's the thing, when the legislation's drafted by the attorneys,
37.
the crack sealing piece of it, they don't come out and say crack sealing and repairs, okay? Because that's kind of like chintzy. Let's think of it as chintzy on your legislation. The main repaving things need to be listed, and then it will say any other,
and it says, and other.
right,
streets, it says
it's all
located
encompassing.
and
So,
other
so we
streets.
could have to go crack seal something else, and then if it's not listed in here, you're not gonna be able to crack seal it. So that's part of the maintenance portion of the legislation. But that's on the
They
road
do
program.
have in other streets located.
Exactly,
Right
and that was
right
on
after.
Joe's original, that's there.
But that's the least, I mean, if we.
Yeah,
we
that's
wanna
nothing
amend it,
new.
we Put in whatever streets.
And you can take
We-
less if you don't wanna
we-
take the 4.
We still have in other streets, so we're covered, I mean.
Okay, Mayor?
Yeah.
So that's 737,000. This is, again, for 775,000. that's still, to me, quite a bit of difference. If we're taking out a bond for $775,000 and not using it, we're paying interest on that extra money that
You
we're
can
not
take it down to
using.
less if you want, but then if we owe more, we gotta come up with it in the budget, that's all. If Joe comes back and maybe something happens in the horseshoe and we need more than that 257, or something happens in Barclay, then that's money we gotta find, that's all. I put it in as a cushion, you're welcome to back it out.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
I
well, let's-
understand that.
Right, but let's look at it, what, from,
I put a cushion of 38,000, that's chump change kinda in the terms of a road program, do you know what I'm saying?
right,
So.
what Councilman Spitzel's saying, which we know, with the compiling of the interest, it adds up. Are we better off cutting it closer and then seeing, I mean.
I think it's
that
6
will-
of one,
will
half
value
dozen
your
of the other.
opinion,
I think it's at that small amount. If I was taking an extra 100,000, by all means, I would say scrutinize that. 38,000, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We either gotta try to find it later, and that's gonna be hard, or what you're gonna pay on, it's gonna be a drop in the bucket. It's not gonna affect it that much, taking 38,000 less. That's my opinion for you.
Well, I did some, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Here's where I'm at with this thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Angela. With what we owe now, our current debt is, we started with 1.190 million.
Correct.
We took out that extra it shouldn't say extra, but the 2.6 million for Dunham Road, just in case. But when that gets paid back, we're still gonna owe the $550,000. So the current debt is $1,740,000.
Correct, it's gonna go up, leaving that Dunham portion open for you. And we did
So-
get our check, so we will pay back. Check came this week from the county.
Okay,
Oh,
go ahead,
that's
Brian.
Okay, so our current debt is $1,740,000, and I just did some simple amortizations, and I know that you gave us that email about you don't have to pay back the principal for 5 years and things like that. I would never, me, myself, and I am only one vote, but I would never vote to pass something hoping that we didn't have to pay principal for 5 years and
I agree.
roll the dice that we can. That's how a lot of people lost their houses several years ago in balloon payments. But anyways, for example, the road program for this year, the 2021 road program, that is not currently in our budget,
Meaning what?
meaning we haven't
Anything we've done for
allocated-
this year in 2021 was in the budget. I already budgeted everything that we needed for this year when we budgeted for this year. So 2022, we haven't touched yet.
For
obviously.
2020, well, the 2021 road project, which we just passed last week for the specialized construction, was for,
That's because that's gonna happen and we pay it next year.
Yeah, so it's
Correct.
gonna be in next year's.
That will be in next year's,
Budget.
just like the 2020 got
Okay.
paid in this year, yes.
So,
Mr. Mayor? Brian?
go ahead.
If I may, but we have added in on the 1.19 million that we reissued, we added in the.
We left in 550 on Dunham.
On
So
Dunham
our
Road.
net cost is gonna be roughly 550,000 out of pocket on Dunham, which
Right.
thankfully is 160 less than we thought. But I'm gonna leave it, since Brian had me second guessing myself last week, we're gonna leave it out. We'll leave it out. And so my information to all of you that asked about what would our pay downs be, yes, we don't have to pay for up to 5 years. And is it my recommendation not to? No. Just like when we bought the building, we had a year where we didn't pay. I would still say if we're able to pay, we pay, or we try to budget a little bit for each of those each year. And then more the second year, if, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's not my recommendation that we don't pay, but you asked, so I gave you the info
Right.
that we have that 5-year cushion.
Okay,
Right.
so I just did a simple amortization, just for the road program, that was $55,650.
This year that I
This
paid
year,
down.
For this year's road program. at 20 years at 5% interest. If we take that the whole 20 years, we will pay for that $55,650, $32,493 in interest alone. We'll pay a total of $88,143.69. So starting at that point, from this road program, what's your vision as far as where we are going to end up in the black at the end of this year? Is it still around 42,000?
At the end of this year?
Yes.
Yes, I think I originally had us at about 122,000, but we should, once we wrap up Dunham, it'll be a lot easier for me to see what's happening. But yes,
Okay, so just to start off on that point, rather than incurring $32,000 in interest payments over the life of a loan, I would much rather pay that off and have a zero budget, not, not in the red, not in the black, but pay it off this year and not incur that $32,000 in interest for the village. That's myself, that I'm just throwing that out for that. Now, as far as that extra $550,000, now this is just a simple amortization, okay, but that's how, in my opinion, we have to think about making our debt payments. That is going to be $43,557 per year if you amortize that out in payments. So figure 43.5, that's going to add to our expenses. We're 43,000 net in the good right now. That wipes that out. So anything else that we're adding to the budget in terms of debt is going to increase our debt service and put us into the red unless we find cuts somewhere else. It's as simple as that. For hickory, tulip, and chestnut, $250,000. If we add the 43.5 to that, that's going to add another $20,300 to the budget. So that's $63,910 just for what we've done so far this year in hickory, tulip, chestnut. I would very much agree to do hickory, tulip, and chestnut because we've got the sewer. But we're already in the red unless we do something or we get more income through next year, through the end of this year and through next year. The roof puts it up to $95,000, over $95,000 a year that we have to come up with. I did not do well, the $775,000 that's proposed adds $104,933 per year that we have to come up with in order to service this debt. So that's where we're at with this. Myself looking at this, and then I'll open it up. I would do hickory, tulip, and chestnut, and I would wait on everything else. Because I'll tell you what, in the contract for the debt service, there's a couple of sections here that people need to be made aware of, Section 7 and Section 12. Section 7 says debt service levy, there shall be and is hereby levied annually on all the taxable property in the village, in addition to all other taxes and inside the 10 mil limitation, a direct tax, the debt service levy, for each year during which any of the notes are outstanding.
which is your inside mills that you've already passed.
Which is the inside mill
Correct.
that we have already passed. However, there's another section here, and I'll read this quickly and then get to my point. Income tax pledge, the village hereby covenants pursuant to section blah, 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 of the Ohio Revised Code, to appropriate annually from lawfully available municipal income taxes, and to continue to levy and collect municipal income taxes adequate to produce amounts necessary to meet the debt charges on the notes and bonds each year. So, in other words, what we're signing, how I'm taking this, is if we can't cover that, our debt, which what we're going to put on the village, we're bound to increase the inside millage and/or increase the income taxes on all the residents to cover that. Am I correct in that?
What we're doing is pledging, just like we do a tax budget each year, to pledge to pay all of our obligations.
Exactly.
That is exactly what that is saying, though. We will continue to collect income taxes, right? So we can't say we're turning into a township, we're not gonna collect taxes anymore.
Right, so we
Okay.
have to, we
It-
can't,
I don't read it as it's, we have to go back and enact something else
if we can't
cover
do it, we have nowhere to turn. We have to do it to service our
That would be
debt.
for anything, though. That would be for your
Well,
general
sure,
fund,
but
that would
we're
be for
signing
anything
a
in the
piece of-
village.
Sure, but we're signing a piece of paper stating that we're doing that.
And
My
that's every
only
note
caution-
that you've done also up to this
Exactly.
point, right?
And we've been able to cover every note we've done
Absolutely.
so far. My caution to everybody here is for future councils, don't put future councils in a position where they can't pay this debt and they've got no choice, nowhere to go, but to the residents. That's why I would suggest, I know we have a 5-year plan. We've had a 5-year plan for many years. I talked to the mayor this afternoon very briefly. It's not like we didn't have a plan. We had the plan. Don Sheehy and Joe Gelati provided us with that every year. But we couldn't afford it. And as Mr. Whedon said last week, we're finally at the place where we can start to talk about this stuff. But we're not at the place, in my opinion, to put $775,000 additional in debt onto the village. And put over $100,000 per year of additional payments that we can't cover, in my opinion. We can't do it right now.
So if I may speak to that, and I'm gonna go ahead and expose it all right here, because I'm gonna tell you now, and I know it's election day next Tuesday. As the fiscal officer, my plan to talk to infrastructure going forward to keep this road program going is going to involve income taxes. It's not gonna be an increase, but I want us to look at pulling back on 0.5% on reciprocation. Because if we don't start doing something with those income taxes, you'll never get your roads done. Nobody wants to see any more inside millage on property taxes. Okay, now had I been here to draft the legislation for the inside millage, I would have went much higher than they did. And then you could have backed it down for your residents at some point in time, God willing, if we had a windfall or somebody moved into Ford. But that 0.3 inside millage is still bringing us not enough to run this village on. So if I'm being frank, that's where I'm at with this. In the future, my proposal to everyone is going to be that we need to look at income taxes and how we're structured. Because we're kind of at the end of the road of where are we pulling money from, right?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. So just knowing that out there, you've got that on the table, that would potentially be a way to cover some of our costs we're gonna incur and then keep moving forward with your road program. But just for what it's worth, there it is. And I'm not saying I don't agree that putting a ton of debt out there is sketchy. I mean, at any time, right? I don't advocate for it. So we do have a comment from Beaubree Jefferson that just says unbelievable.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Angela, so we just reissued the 1.19 million
Correct.
in debt, in addition to the 550,000.
Correct.
So that was 1.74
We're
million.
gonna leave that out.
This program at 775 and the 400,000 for the roof is
Correct.
1,175,000.
Right.
That brings us over, what, 2.9?
Yep. That would be it if you did everything, correct. That's
So,
your figure.
I mean, we're currently at 1.74 million, and to be jumping to 2.9, double that. I don't think, I understand that the refinancing is gonna cost, but I'm feeling very rushed with this, and I understand why. But my other question is, the refinancing costs, do those go into the loan also? or
Yes,
those-
they do. Those get rolled right into the loan. So when the financing comes to us, they're already in, you know what I'm saying, it's already there. It's already-
So with that being said especially, I would actually really like a little more time, because I really think we need to seriously look at this and not just bum rush it. You know, if that $20,000 that's going to be the difference, less, is going to get rolled into the financing anyway.
And keep in mind, we will have a little bit higher rating going forward. I'm not trying to sway you to not, do your, wait on it, but we don't get OMAP, the Ohio Municipal or the Ohio Market Access Place. We've gotten our rating, thankfully, so we will not be able to utilize OMAP. So this is a larger amount of money, not a huge amount by any means, but we will pay a slightly higher percentage rate if you take money later in the year or in 2022, because we will not be able to use OMAP again. That's kind of like a once-a-year thing. So, just some food for thought.
Mayor Colgraf, if I may, I fully respect Councilman Spitznagel's analysis, and all of us are concerned as it relates to the ability to pay on our debts and our debt service. What's really the issue, how I see the issue tonight, is that we were talking about a commitment to our residents as it relates to our residential road program. Again, when we're talking about things like quality of life, our residential roads are essential for, and I know some people will call them secondary roads. I like to call them residential roads because that's what they are. These roads are essentially important to the quality of life for our residents. Again, because as a semi-rural village, we have chosen by choice not to have sidewalks, not to have streetlights, and therefore our roads are how we traverse, whether it be by walking with our children, our dogs, our cycling. And so the real issue for me tonight is committing to this road program and whether or not we're going to have the same discussion in 2022 about the 2022 projects, or if we're going to just combine them now in 2021, 2022 and 2023 projects, so that we can take advantage of the OMAP financing. If we're going to commit to, if we're saying with the, as I said last week, with the dedicated cost savings that our departments heads have committed to over the last few years, and also the fact that the village was able to remove from its budget some expenditures that now are being paid by our residents. We can't. I will never lose sight of the fact that part of the reason we got to the point of being in the black is because the budgeting for the sewer department at $150,000, I think it was at 1 year ago, was budgeted, has now been taken out of the budget and being paid directly by our residents through an assessment on their tax bill. Same thing with rubbish is now taken out of the city, off the city's books and being pushed.
A little bit of it, not
Oh,
fully.
the majority. Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so that, again, that's how we say we can start having this dialogue. But if we're going to commit to an infrastructure program, specifically roads, that's our responsibility. We know that we get a lot of good grants for some of our other roads. That's a wonderful thing. But when it comes to this portion of our roads, our residential roads, it's still upon us to be able to get this all important work done. And I still support moving these two projects together, the Barclay Estates and the Horseshoe, and then everything else that's in there, so that we can take advantage of, one, the OMAP money, and two, the economy of scale. So by, if we bid these projects as a larger project, you're going to bring more bidders to the table also, and you're going to create a situation where you will have more competition. So I still stand in support of moving these projects forward together, and so that we can, again, take advantage of the OMAP as well as the economy of scale and bringing more bidders to the table when it's time for these projects to go out.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
And then I can-
it's not at all that I'm not committed to the road project. What I'm committed to is our bottom line. And if we're combining, which now you're saying, Councilman Whedon, we're combining the 2022 and 2023, we're not. Because the 2023 road program is a cost to us of $667,000.
Portions there.
So we're leaving those other
Portions thereof,
streets,
yes.
right, but we're not taking all of that. We're leaving other streets off. And
So,
looking at the budget, if I may,
yeah,
I don't know if anybody knows, but we've recently had 3 police cars out of service at one time. 2 of the brand new ones. We're down. We're down. We're gonna have to find money for that. That's not money that we can take out in a loan for a project. You know, being committed to our residents means being committed across the whole way. If we don't have cars where we don't have officers on the road, that's a huge safety issue. You know, I mean, we have to look at, those cars are back on the road now, and no, because of George. You know, thank God for George up at the service department. We've got Rob begging for trucks for the service department. You know, we've got rec saying that they need new equipment also and stuff too. My concern is, I'm feeling rushed on this. And if it's going to be a $20,000 cost that's going to be included in the financing anyway, I think we need more time. I need more time. I'd like to know exactly what this is going to, what is the bottom line going to be for a $2.9 million debt every year?
okay, we got resident comments, I'm sorry. So first I'll jump in, I understand.
Well, the residents' comments will wait until we're
Okay,
done with our
all
discussion.
right, then let me do mine.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
Because that's, yeah, go
That's
ahead.
fine, that's
Go
fine.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you
No,
can.
I absolutely.
We get our discussion done and then we'll.
I
comments
completely
from the
understand Jennifer's reservations.
The-
Let me speak. So obviously there's a lot of things in this budget. It's a rough year here every year, right? So yes, new police cars are down. Yes, Rob needs vehicles. Since I got here, police have gotten new vehicles every year.
Yeah.
So I just asked everybody for a list of their vehicles, their conditions, and the year they were purchased, and their mileage, because I have to make some tough choices, right? Because I've been shifting Rob off, police have gotten cars, so I gotta think about this when I budget, right? So it's not even to say that if you don't do your roads, that there's still gonna be money for police cars, okay? That's all I'm saying, right? Right. We've been fortunate enough to pay cash for our vehicles, because over the years, we didn't lease anything and we didn't finance
And
anything,
we have a
so we
court
have no.
fund- We have a court
We
fund
do.
for the vehicle.
We do, but we don't have the credit to keep financing vehicles because we never did it before. Now, I mean, out the door, a police vehicle's not cheap by the time you outfit it. So, I mean, I just want to make it a point that even if we don't do road programs, that's not a guarantee that there's money in this budget coming up for. This was my jumping point for you guys. Is it ideal to take debt? No. You've put your roads off for so long. And I agree. I live in a residential area myself in Seven Hills. They finally just got to
All right,
my
get
little
to
end of
the
the street.
point.
So, it's still gonna be important, so that me bringing this new money to you, rushed or not rushed, was, hey, while we're doing it, while we can wrap it in, here is your jumping point to get this road program started. I mean, if you're not comfortable with it, you're not, but we will be back here again having the same conversation next year.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, and the thing, you know, whether you have more time or not, the situation's not gonna change, okay? Barclay's gonna be at that amount, okay? A new note, if we won't be able to roll it in this note, we either take a new note or we bond it out.
Or we start bonding out, right, and
Okay.
interest rates are starting to rise slightly,
Right.
so, yes.
So, I mean, that's your two options. So we're ruling out this. How we got to this point with the new money, because it's the option, if we were gonna do it, we probably will save a little money in interest and stuff, versus if we're gonna do it. So, if you're gonna do it, if you really feel you're gonna do it next year, now is the time, because nothing's really gonna change, okay? We're gonna have some development with Smith and Oldie, okay? We know that the agreement we have with them, they're going to build a building within 2 years. Those employees won't be there to the
Yeah,
completion of
it's
that.
gonna take a minute.
We are hoping to get through, the signing of the purchase agreement, not us, but potential purchasers at the Ford plant. There might be some revenue on the redevelopment of it, demolition. But we really know we're really not gonna reap any of that. So pretty much our finances, as long as we stay where we're at, are gonna be pretty much the same. They've been very consistent the last 5 years even, last 3 years. And what we've done though, to balance the budget, is cut back, whether it's service, whether it's the police, whether it's office staff, okay? So really the question is, I mean, to me, because I agree with everybody here, and what we don't want to do is divide any of us, keep moving in a good direction, because we all want to do what's right for the village. That we all do, though. And at the same time, we want to answer to our residents. Over the years, they said we want you to be fiscally responsible. You want us to balance the budget, okay, which we've done. But if the question is that we are going to do these roads, okay, so let's say we pass Horseshoe, 2023, next year our finances are about the same. In 2023, we'll be at the same point, or are we gonna put it off till 2024? Can we afford to do, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying just to,
It's just gonna snowball, right?
I mean, we're almost at the point, but let's keep talking about it. Because I understand where everybody's going, but I also understand it's not going away. It's not getting any better.
Right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I fully appreciate Mr. Councilman Whedon's position, and Ms. Allen's position. As far as being in the same position next year, no, we won't be in the same position. I would respectfully disagree, because if we were to just pass the Horseshoe and adding on what we're doing already with the 2021 project, if we don't have the money, if it doesn't come in, then we do have the option to put that off for another year or another 6 months or whatever. But if we bite on this now for the sake of saving, a few $1,000s, we won't have that option if the money comes in, because we're indebted now. And that's signed, sealed, and delivered. We owe on that money now. So we will not have an option. So we won't be in this. I would disagree by saying we would be in the same position. Yes, we will have the same conversation about whether we want to do this. And committing to the road project or the road program is, we are making a commitment, but that doesn't mean doing everything ahead of schedule either. We got the schedule from Joe Gelati to do Barclay Estates in 2023, not 2022. And, I understand some people are, especially in Barclay, are upset. We also have the $50,000 that we had discussed in the infrastructure committee that Joe Gelati stated several times that will go a long way to fixing the major portions in that area, especially where the inlet is to that area. And I would agree that's horrible. But you mentioned that it's voting time. There's some people in the audience here that will tell you I've not done anything to get a vote. Okay, I'm thinking about the village, and there's more people in Barclay Estates than anything else. So I'm not thinking about that, obviously. I'm thinking about piling on the debt when it's actually not necessary. Yeah, we have economies of scale. We'll always have economies of scale. We can always, if the money starts coming in from something from the demolition, whatever, and we have that money, we can always do economies of scale with something. We've done that since I've been on council. So where I'm sitting, I'm comfortable in sticking with the plan that Joe Gelati mapped out for us. Of course, I'm only one vote, that's it. So I would, do the horseshoe, which needs to be done with the sewer, or the water. And,
And the maintenance pieces. The maintenance
sorry?
pieces and the maintenance pieces.
yes, exactly. And just wait and see for the following year. I mean, this, again, this road project, this road program is a year-by-year thing. And it was never intended to pile it all into one. We could just, if we want to do that, we can say, well, why don't we just pile the next 5 years into one project? I mean, that's an example by extreme, and I understand that. Nobody's advocating for that. But that's where I'm at with this, unless somebody's can tell me how we're going to balance the budget in the next 2-3 years with doing this, because then what are we going to do? We're going to add 2023 projects onto 2022, and then that 775 is going to be another $400,000.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
It's actually funny, Councilman Spitznagel, that you said the total road program, because that is something that I would be willing to talk about, starting next year, putting the full 5-year plan. We have 5 years before we have to start making payments. We are fully committed to sticking to that plan the whole way. But again, my feelings are, we're trying to rush this to save a little bit of money for millions of dollars. And that's where I'm uncomfortable with it. But I would be willing to say, all right, you know what, we're gonna make a commitment, here's what it is for the next 5 years. $2,467,000. But I'd
Well,
like
the
to see
whole
the
road
numbers
program would
with
be
that.
more than that.
Well, and you wouldn't take it all at once
Yeah, I
either,
mean,
just,
the whole road programs, the point I was making, not so much that it would be the same financial, I'm talking the conditions of the roads, okay?
yeah, unfortunately.
I don't think, I'm just gonna be honest with you, me sitting in this chair, and whatever council ends up here, that in 2022, 2023, 2024, you don't do any roads, I'd be shocked. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. Whether you wanna balance the budget or not, Brian, we've been in this position. We've been in a negative because we knew we had to do infrastructure, things, and had to use the savings at that time, okay?
Right.
Or go to, we knew that, okay? And sometimes you have to do that, okay? My point was that the road's not gonna get better, okay? And it's gonna be in front of you. And if it's not Barkley, it's gonna be another one, okay? Whether we have the money or not, we might have to go into some savings, might have to do some of the suggestions that our fiscal officer, Angela, has. Those tough decisions might have to be made. But they will have to be made because we are at the point, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not ashamed to say we're at that thing because we worked hard to balance the budget, okay? And that was a smart thing to do. We balanced the budget. We did, maybe cleaned up some things we needed to clean up. You know, when you look at things, sometimes you see you do things better. Our departments have learned to do things better, do things more efficient, okay? And I'm just saying, just my opinion, you know, I don't know, it's a tough one. I would have no problem, you know, putting the roof off and doing the two things, but I also understand and I respect everybody here because I think it's important that we make the decisions together. I would say this is just me, if we don't roll it in the note, okay, and you just want to put none of it in this note and just stick to the original note, what we passed last week, and look to bond it out, okay, see what we can do there, that's fine too. But I think you need to do that. I really think that in 2022, next year, it's just, you know, doing one and maybe putting the two together, I don't know. I don't see much changing. I do see some revenue, but I don't wanna I'm hoping things really go well with the corner, and stuff, but I mean, I don't know. That's where I'm at. What I meant by, I think you're gonna be faced with that. I don't think you're gonna be able to say, I don't think there's gonna be a body that's gonna be able to say, we're not gonna do those streets. I think we're at that point right now.
Well,
I think we're at it, a couple of years ago, it wasn't as bad. We were able to say, let's go another year, let's go another 2 years, we're back. But I think I think we're starting to kick the can down the road.
well, Mr. Mayor? may I?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I'll be quiet, let
You
somebody
don't
else
have to be
speak.
quiet, this is what's good about it.
Yeah, yes, you're absolutely correct. We used our rainy day fund. We had $10 million in the bank. And the reason why people didn't pay for their garbage, pay for their increased taxes, things like that, the inside millage, for years, was because we were paying that off and running deficits all those years to stave that off as long as we possibly could. The difference between now and then is then we had $10 million in the bank to do that with. Now we have a little over $1 million unencumbered, something like that. We don't have much cushion at all to start running red. We don't have much cushion. So, and you are absolutely correct with saying we're at a point where these roads are, we can't kick the can down the road too much farther, maybe that much farther, but that's about it. I said it at the infrastructure meeting, and you mentioned it here, but other municipalities, you get your road fixed, those houses on that road get assessed. And it's a net zero for the municipality, but it happens all the time. They fix a sidewalk, they get assessed, because the municipality doesn't have the money to fix them themselves. You get a new street light, you get assessed, okay? That's why I said at the candidates night meeting, I never say never. When asked that question, I never say never, because our can can't be kicked too far down the road. And I'm trying to keep this budget in net zero or slightly in the red.
In the black.
Or slightly in the black.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see right now, we're gonna have to just tweak the little things, some things to keep it in the black. We had $775,000. We're gonna assess the residents. I guarantee you, we're gonna assess the residents next year. Because we're not gonna be able to pay that money. We're gonna kick the can down the road for 5 years or so and pray that something's gonna happen. And if it doesn't, we're gonna assess the residents, or a future council will. So that's your choices. That's where I'm at, and I'll be quiet and, let somebody else speak.
Well, I'll make my last little statement. I think if you don't add that money to the new notes, I think, whether it's this council or the council changes, that there needs to be a commitment that this is reviewed, especially based on if things change and the revenue change. And if not, if it doesn't change, it's the same, you're gonna have to look at it, and you're gonna have to decide whether to take out a note or bond it out. You're gonna have to, okay? I can just, from my position here and seeing, I just, no different than that roof. That roof right there, it's gonna be worse. So it's gonna need to be repaired. We're gonna be having the same discussion. Okay, so it's, hopefully that the revenues will increase. That's our goal, and that's what we're working hard on. That's the key, because then we wouldn't have to have these tough decisions and discussions. But
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
Angela, what is our savings at?
About $550,000.
Okay, that's what I thought I was reading here. So our savings is down to $500,000.
Your savings is down to $500,000, yes. Yes, we had, I'm trying to think of what we had when I started here, but we ended up liquidating some of that, I want to say by the end of 17, beginning of 18.
May I
So
call her?
with that-
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
go
finish.
ahead.
No, you finish.
It just adds more questions, for me. And what would the bottom line be, can you tell me, Angela, on $2.9 million of the payments that would be due?
Well, if we wanted to pay every year, we're gonna have to, I can't tell you right this second what the bottom line's gonna be, but if you want to think about what your pay down's gonna be, if we say we're gonna go into it and take money now, and every year we're gonna pay on it regardless, we're not skipping any years, then we would have to go, we can, in those first 5 years, we can pick whatever minimum payment we're gonna want, right? So let's just say on the existing road construction that's on our other note that gets refunded each year, I had to pay I paid $35,000 down this year, right? So it would be up to deciding, okay, can we afford to go ahead, and again, I paid conservative this year. So last year, we paid down $200,000 in debt, the prior year. I'm only paying $105,000 down this year. So, we can add those into that, and so that we're not ever skipping a year, and we're still at least putting some down. And then in other years, if we've paid low and they get to a point and they say, okay, now we need you to do at least this much, you only want to do 20 this year, we need you to do 35. So, it's gonna be a matter of, right now, I was able to put 105 in. We're probably gonna have to at least commit to 175,000 each year, or more if we're able, because obviously we don't wanna shortchange it each year. And like I said, that first year, with one of these items, we did skip a payment. Actually, when we even got traffic signals way back when, there was a year they skipped, doing a payment. So
the other question I have for you is, if we approve this, are we then committed to doing all of those roads and using all of that money? Or, my question, the reason why is,
yes,
what if there is some disaster and Alexander Road falls into a fault line?
okay, that would be an exception and that would be reconsidered. But the way a note works, whatever you take it for, whatever project, okay, let's even say the roof because that's a little more concrete and simple, but even with the roads, I have to give them a drawdown schedule, right? So whatever would happen tonight after this, Joe and I sit down, we approved this, not this, whatever. I need a drawdown schedule to give to Bricker so that the powers that be can see, within 6 months of taking your note, you need to start spending at least 5% of it. You need to be drawing 5% of it on your project, whatever project you took it for. So you can't just take money and let it sit there. Now, these roads listed specifically are going to need to be addressed. And then where it says any other termini in there, that would be like any other things that come up, how like Dunham had that water main on Maple side, change order type of things, any other little things that may creep up, then we can shift it there. Or, and maybe you don't want to take the 38 extra and you just want to take it to the wire. And then if there still is even a little bit, let's say the horseshoe comes in a little bit less, then right, then with this money, then it's covering some other things that we would use it for. But yes, you can't just take it and let it sit there. So if we say we're taking it for the roads listed in the road program or Barclay by itself or what have you, that's what it needs to be used for.
And what is the time frame that it would have to be used in?
I can tell them that's what the draw schedule's for. So like Dunham, we knew was gonna be started and finished in 2021, sorry. If we, knowing, Joe and I's discussion, anything that would happen in the 22 year that we now say we're taking money for, we're planning to do in the 2022 year. Because you wouldn't want to say, I'm taking money now and pushing a project off a year. That doesn't make sense. Now you just took money specific to a project and you're paying the interest and financing on it, and when you're not using it. It's like my husband leasing a car that's sitting in our driveway that he's not driving because he's using my son still till he gets his license, so he's not to put the mileage on his, right? That would be a waste of taking the money now if you're not gonna use it now. So yes, because you don't just take a note just to have money sitting there. That's not what that's about. Even though it goes into your general fund as this does for these other projects in the past, you need to use it for the projects you're specifying.
So that's a concern that I had too, because as Councilman Spitznagel brought up, the horseshoe is not listed in there
I will go back to her
So-
original
Well, we can
piece.
make an amendment.
Yeah, that can be
We make it-
amended.
we've already
I
talked.
just don't wanna see
We-
that the horseshoe gets thrown out.
No, it wouldn't,
Because of
and
something else.
I've
So
had-
it says in other roads.
I've had to have multiple amendments done to this based on your discussions from Bricker, so I can go back to her original. She may have just omitted it when she gave me the most recent. And if not, we can amend it and I can type it in there. It's not,
I
can
made
put the straight
sure
names.
before
Yes.
this meeting, and Angela will tell you, because she was getting mad at me,
Angela yelled
that
at
we
me.
could amend,
Yes, we
those
can,
notes.
to take less, yes, we
and
can.
I have an
To take
email
less.
from Catherine, Brickler-Neckler, an attorney, who says we can amend those notes any way you guys want them.
Just not to increase, obviously,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
we can
can't
go
and
less,
say we're gonna put new chairs
pull
here,
out
so
what we need, like if we're pulling
there's
out Barclay,
no-
right.
Anything you want to put in there, I made very clear of that, right, Angela?
That we can, yes, we can
You're
adjust
ready
and
to hang
remove.
up on me,
we
but I
can-
got it in writing, and Mr. Montello knows from Catherine. So if anything was wrong, we would blame.
Me.
Brickler-Neckler was-
You're not blaming Bricker, don't throw Catherine under the bus.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I would very quickly, because we're.
I told you first, though, that it could be amended, because just like any other legislation, if we're gonna take less,
But I don't-
obviously, we
but
can do that.
That either falls on John or Catherine, so.
Not something you do every.
Right, we just want to make sure, I just want to make that, just say that it
Right.
can be amended.
You
it
can
would be
amend to
okay.
pull
So
out
don't feel
anything.
funny that way.
Well, again, Mr. Mayor, from my standpoint, I'm uncomfortable with how quickly we're trying to do this. The roof, I understand. I've talked to Rob several times about the roof prior to that. He had been asking since 16. Not that our roads haven't been asking and our residents haven't been asking about our roads either, but they're pulling saturated insulation out when they're repairing it each time. I mean, to me, that's kind of a health issue too for the,
We'll
people
save on the
working
tear
in the
off if we
building.
wait.
And I understand that. I just wish we had more time to go through this more.
Well, it's up to you, guys, whether you want to add new money to it, or, we can always review it later on. It doesn't mean that we can't go after a bond or another note. We were just trying to.
Trying to be
and
efficient.
It wasn't a rush thing, it was, we knew that Brickler-Neckler said, we feel you can put more notes out there.
Right, we're
if you
not at
want.
our debt capacity
They
yet.
felt our capacity was fine, so it's not like, it's just us saying, hey, let's take the debt, and we got somebody just no different than you getting a loan, and that doesn't mean people got loans and defaulted, Brian, and I understand that. But in this, it's a little bigger, more money, so they have a comfort level there, because they certainly don't want you to default on, $750,000. And so when they mentioned that we could increase our debt, we just thought, hey, it's discussion worth talking about, because we have some infrastructure items that need to be addressed. So that's where we're at. So we gotta look at it in a positive way, because I know, probably 5 years ago, we might not have been able to increase our debt. We are, we're getting ourselves in a better financial position. So,
We gotta do on top of the roof.
well, let's,
On top of the roof?
yeah, I mean, we want to come back to the road program. Do you want us to talk about the roof? If we don't need to talk about the roof, if we're not going to do the roof, or we're going to do the roof,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, when I was talking about the total road program that was given to us by Joe is 2.467 million. That was just those projects being added up, and that's what I was speaking of when I said
Right.
it's 2.4 million, and stuff, and I would be willing to have a longer discussion on financing the entire project.
You would not
at some
finance all
time.
at once, though, because of that need to draw, right? So you wouldn't say, we're gonna finance all of this at one time if we're not gonna get to parts of it for a long time, just for, just so you know that. You would not,
You'd have to
you
break it
you
up
wouldn't
in
bother taking the
years.
note for that, right?
So we have a lot of, in terms of the roof, we have a lot of leaking and.
Well, I don't know about the leaking, that Rob would have to attest to, but it's very old, and if you come here after a windstorm, parts of it are blowing all over. I mean, it's old. HVAC system's old, roof's old, like, there's no denying it, it just needs to be replaced. It has not, it was looked at in 2016, and we acquired a proposal at that time. And then that we kind of had to sit on that and not do anything with it. So that's already 5 years ago. And I don't even remember how old the actual roof is, but it's in disrepair.
It's original.
I think we
Yeah.
should,
No, it's
I
not.
think we should go
I don't-
as we are until
Don't
we have to
assume
put buckets out,
anything,
you know? I don't know what anybody else feels.
because it becomes hearsay.
Right.
The bottom line is we need a roof,
Go ahead.
okay?
Yeah.
You know, you need streets repairs, you need a roof, you need HVAC repairs, you need heating repairs.
It's all,
Like, those are never gonna go away, doesn't
No.
matter if it's a new building.
like owning a house.
You got a new building, you're gonna need repairs. Those are in our budget every year. We budget in those departments, okay? But right now, we got some bigger infrastructure items. But we budget every year for maintenance, for repairs.
We do, but I will say honestly, roof I'm not speaking to because I don't know what Rob has spent doing anything to the roof if we have. But HVAC, we're starting to get to that point where our budgeted amount is getting exceeded with repairs. So, I mean, just as a reference,
Well,
you
we
know.
understand that.
like-
We had a assessment of,
Yeah, I mean, same thing with
Most of
vehicles.
us
We're
understand
paying more to
that.
fix than it's worth, so.
we, you know,
Now, Mr.
but we're
Mayor,
no different than a lot of communities.
Yeah, Mayor Colgraf. Yeah, I had a question for Angela. I just wanted to try to get some clarity around
Yeah.
the 2021 budget and the estimated end of the year ability to be in the black. You know, I think the original was 100,000 some odd.
Yeah, we had it about 122.
So what changed that?
Not,
position?
well, what's changing it right now is that we've got done them all outstanding and we hadn't received in our grant money, right?
Okay.
So now our grant money's coming in,
Right.
okay, which will offset that, and then all the money will go out the door for the refunding note and come back in the door, so to speak. So once all of those are finished, everybody, department-wise, I took a quick look, because, you know, I'm still wrapping some stuff up. Everybody seems to be kind of within their means for most of their budget items. Nobody's way over on anything, thankfully. Withholding tax is down, and so I gotta kind of get to the bottom of that. Is it just a timing thing? Because I don't feel like our companies had a huge impact by COVID. Our resident, individual tax was up. Net profit's still down, but that's kind of every year, right? October's now, and there's filings coming in that were, they had deadline extensions. But the withholding tax is down a little bit from where we were last year, so that's a little concerning. Yeah, I mean, but otherwise, once we wrap up Dunham here and I get those figures in, which should fall into the end of October's, we will have a better picture. And yeah, maybe we're not gonna end up right at that 122, but I feel like we'll still be pretty close to at least net zero or be in the black, yeah.
Okay, so nothing significantly has changed
Nothing
to take us
significantly should
off
put us in
track
the red.
from
No.
our original projection?
No, nothing significantly off from projections.
So, the bond council, if I heard the mayor correctly, has felt that we have the capacity to increase debt at this time. Plus, you're saying, we are still on track
Yes,
to, for the projection of
yes.
beginning to black just say roughly $100,000 for conversation's sake, you know the exact number.
Yep.
And then, granted, we don't want to depend on these once every cycle or lifetime funds that come in from our federal government. But we also know that the American Rescue Plan dollars that will come in will be a factor in 2022. And budget to some degree, however that gets used.
Yeah.
Whatever it gets used for is now perhaps money that the village would not have had to.
It's $118,000 that we received, and that's what we'll receive next year. Do I
Correct.
already have it earmarked in my head? Yes, I do.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
But
is.
yes, it's
so
money-
you have it
It's gonna
earmarked.
come off of somewhere.
Something's gonna come off, so that's 2 years in a row. 2020, that's, you have 2022 and 2023.
I wouldn't call it coming off of somewhere, though. I'd use caution with that, right? Because the way we have to use the money isn't, let's just pay our bills currently.
No.
It's hey, we need a police car or we need a dump truck, and those are things that service our village, so I've learned we might be able to use it toward that. That would be something brand new, right? So we have it, we take something brand new. So I don't want you to think of it as there's 118,000 that we don't have to mess with in our budget, because really pretend it's not there is what I'm saying.
Well, and I disagree.
That's kind of a
I think
little-
we have to pretend that it is there because that also factors into the capacity to.
Not for the debt, you can't be using it to
No,
balance the
not to pay the
budget.
debt, but because you now have that $118,000 that you may apply. Just say you apply that to 2 police cars. Just say police cars. Just don't even talk about truck. You apply that to 2 police cars. That's now the 2 police equity, the 2 police calls equal dollars to 2 police cars that would have ordinarily come out of the city.
That would have ordinarily come out if we said we could afford it,
Okay.
though.
So I think
Right, so-
it has to be part of the discussion for 2023 and 2022 and 2024.
Yeah,
because
kind of
we
and kind
know-
of not.
we know
I see
those-
what you're saying, but I don't
Those money,
necessarily.
those dollars are being added to our, it's not revenue we can count on long-term, I got that. But it's something for a short period of time that we know we will be receiving. And, you know, and of course, when we get to our larger budget discussions, you know, we need to hear more about, you know, how you made, your recommendations for earmarking those funds. And I hope council actually also has opportunity to, participate and share in that piece. And these are other factors that may help keep us, with our ability to repay, the debt. And none of us really want debt for our village, but we just have these projects that really are incumbent upon us at this time, especially the road projects. And I'm listening to the mayor. I mean, I hear the passion of the mayor as it relates to the roads and the roof. He's the mayor of this village, and he's the mayor of this house. And I really think we really need to move forward with this resolution 2021-18 as it is written, with the exception of maybe amending, making sure we have the horseshoe
Sure,
streets
listed,
named out in here, because I believe we will have the ability to service our debt, as well as service the other needs of our community, whether it's police cars. We'll have to talk about truck, but police cars, we've never failed since my tenure here in the village, even before council, being on council, we've never failed to each year add new police cars to the force or wherever else our police department needs. They have been met, including this year, this new contract of increasing by one, only by one, but increasing our commitment to our police department by adding another officer, full-time officer to the department.
Okay, Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead, Denny.
come on, take a break.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's get back, so we got 2 pieces of ordinance, we got 2 ordinances here. One is for the roof, and the one is for the road program. So, where are we at with them?
I would take one at a time, right? Like, take the roof.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
fine.
easiest,
That's
right?
fine.
That's the easiest to discuss, consider, and maybe come up with what you're doing with that first.
That's fine.
I would work backwards, that's just me personally.
No, it's up to the.
Because that
it's
one
up
doesn't
the
need to be
team.
modified,
What
right?
do you, let's
It's either happening or not.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I believe we should fix the roof, and I believe we should fix the horseshoe and be done. Okay, and wait to see what happens next year. The roof is, you know, from what I remember, there was a stack up there, and somebody didn't clean the leaves out of the thing, and we started getting leaks in this building from negligence, from stupidity, you know. So fix the roof. I know the boiler downstairs needs to be fixed. I know there's going to be police officers that are going to be retiring, I believe, this year, and we're going to have to pay that.
No one's retiring yet.
And there's things that are going to come up. So our engineers have said that the horseshoe was the worst thing. Let's fix that. That's the experts telling us that, let's fix that, let's fix the roof and be done with it and wait and see what happens for the others. They are smaller streets. We've done Dunham, and we've done Alexander, these are the main roads. How many people are on those other streets? Yes, they're not greatest, but they're, you know, they live there, they'll have to just be more careful.
And we will still patch them if we don't go through with this. Let's reiterate that we already talked to Joe about doing the crack sealing and repairs in Barclay Estates prior to thinking about new money to move up Barclay Estates. So we won't leave you with potholes until 2023.
With this COVID, we've had so many residents die in this community. We have so many widows here. My property tax has gone up $35,000. You asked me why my house went up $35,000. I didn't do a darn thing to it.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna pass an income tax thing, believe me. So you're not gonna be looking at that to fund this. So that's my thing. Joe Gelati, with my faith in that man, he says these are the streets that should be fixed. I figure that's what it should be, and fix the roof. If this roof falls in on us, we're not gonna be sitting here discussing anything. So let the other stuff wait and see. That's my point.
Any other comments from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I agree with Gloria. I think we should do the roof and I would love to do Barclay. I think we have to weigh this out with the potential debt and see if we just can't get the roads, as you said, Angela, you know, they're gonna do crack sealing in Barclay next year and such. And, but you can't have a building without a roof. I mean, it's just not a possibility. So this is a very difficult decision to make because you want to do it all. You want to do everything for the residents, but that includes balance the budget. So how do you walk the thin razor line? So that's what I've come up with, if the decision is tonight.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
In regards to the roof, I was at the infrastructure meeting and asked Rob straight out, which do we need more, the roof or trucks? And he said, we need roof for trucks, roof for trucks. He said, we need both, and I'll keep repairing whichever one. But that's when he said about the insulation and the continual spots on the roof, and the roof is what we can issue debt for. We can't issue debt for trucks. So I understand, and I've reserved myself to needing that for the roof. And we're going to have to figure out another way with the trucks, whether it's payment plans. You know, I certainly don't agree with leasing vehicles, but if we have to make payments instead on vehicles or something. And the streets, I want to do it all, but I don't feel I have all the information. I know you're giving it to me, but it's a lot to absorb from last week. Okay, that's why we're having this special meeting tonight, because it was brought up last Tuesday.
It was brought up for you guys 2 weeks ago, and you guys brought up Barclay and threw it in the mix, right? So this is your week 3 after infrastructure.
Right, and we have all the numbers now with everything, and the budget and stuff too. So I need, maybe I need to take more time so I can thoroughly review everything, you know, but I just don't feel.
Well, the debt's not gonna change.
Right.
The only thing that's gonna change is whether you can get a better interest rate, a less interest rate, or whatever.
Or
So if anybody needs any more, the debt's not gonna change. Barclay's gonna be $300 and something thousand. It's gonna be that next year. It's gonna be more. The only thing that's gonna change is what we do. Either you go with this note, with this debt, or we bond it out years, or we do nothing. We could do nothing in 2-3 years. That gives you the option if you don't go with this, because you are making a commitment here. I know that's some of the worry, but as far as, there's not much gonna change except your interest rate and what you're paying back. I mean, that's what's gonna change. The risk you take is which way it goes. Is it gonna go up in 2022 or 23, or is it gonna be where it's at now? Or you do nothing, and that's where and I understand Mr. Spitzen, they go, and that's where he's at. I understand that, that, and, you know, but my point was, even you get to a point, you still gotta fix things. Regardless, I mean, there's communities in fiscal emergency, and guess what, they're still fixing their infrastructure, because they don't have a choice. We're far from that, but I'm just saying, it's, you know, and I don't, you know, I think you guys can get the feel for my opinion, when I don't want, I think, I don't want to certainly divide any of us. You know, you're gonna go with the roof, and you're gonna go with everything, but you're gonna leave, so you leave Barkley out, so you're leaving out what? Basically $400,000, correct? That's what you're leaving out.
375, yes.
So, I guess to me, if, well, I mean, are you better off? It's up to you guys.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd be interested, Mr. Montello, do you have any input?
I don't really think.
What Brian said about the verbiage about taxpayers' dollars, that this, is that, do you read it the same way as Brian is reading it?
I do, it does seem to pledge our income taxes.
It always does.
repayment. Now, whether we have to raise
Right.
income taxes or not, I'm not quite clear, but,
That language is in the note you passed.
Yeah.
It's in everything.
you know,
It's in every note.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when you get a mortgage for your house, you rent it, you pledge your rents towards the repayment of the mortgage if you should default. But, I suppose it would be an extreme circumstance to have to assess the residents.
Exactly.
If we really went into default. I would think we would refinance before we did that, or come up with some other solutions prior to having to do that, but it's possible.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Brian.
As I said before, as far as the road program is concerned, I would stick with Mr. Gelati's doing hickory, chestnut, and tulip. As far as the roof is concerned, with the horseshoe and adding on the $550,000 for Dunham, and adding on the roof, just straight amortization, that adds about $96,000 a year to our expenses. I'm willing to work with that. I think we can pull that off as far as having funds to pay that. I am not comfortable in, just for the sake of saving a few $1,000s, incurring another $400,000 in debt and increasing that another $32,000 a year. I don't see any reason to do it. And I know people in Berkeley Estates aren't going to be happy with me, but if nothing happens with our income, we've talked about, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. But if it doesn't happen, and we do have that conversation, when we get to that point, we're going to get to the point, as we did a few years ago, in conversing about raising the inside millage to pay for it. That's what's going to happen if we don't increase our revenues by any other means. So at this time, that's what I'm comfortable doing. I would, if this goes on, if people want to put this on the way it is now, I would vote for suspension to move it along. I wouldn't hold it up, but I would vote no on it.
Oh, So,
So,
This 775,000 as written.
okay, it's up to, you know, Jennifer, as council president, let's pull this group together and see where everybody's at.
can we finish
Well,
with the roof and get Ray and Diane's input?
what we don't want to do, and I think it's important, and it's something we strive here as a council, is we don't want to divide, we want to come to a good, see where we're at. We certainly don't want to walk out of here and then just say that's it. We want to have a plan on where we're going and how we're going to accomplish, because I think all of us want to accomplish the same thing, and that's do it all, okay? So, with that said, I'm kind of following, I'm not really following, are you for the roof? I mean, we got two pieces of legislation, one's for the roof, and then one's for the road program. We can make amendments to the road program to pass, if there is something that everybody wants to pass, and same thing with the village hall roof.
Yes, I would.
So, you don't have to, you know, however you want to kind of get an idea, how everybody feels.
In other words, I would concur with Mary Brown Miller and Gloria Kowalski.
Denny, Mary?
I don't think we should do a roof until we put buckets out. Right, that's
Push
my
it?
thinking.
Okay.
When we have to put buckets out, that's when we do a roof. Thank you.
So you wouldn't be for the roof? Voting for the replacement of the roof?
Again, refresh me if you would, on this history of our present roof. How old is this roof?
Well, Denny, here's what we do know. I'm not sure on the age. There's no doubt what we're really, the question about whether we need a new roof, we definitely need a new roof. It's exceeded its life of the roof. You know, you have a 20-year roof, a 30-year roof.
What is it?
I don't know
20-year
how old it is.
It's over 20.
Yeah.
So
So it's past its life. It's due for a roof. There's not a question of whether or not we need a roof. Where it's just like the roads. It's not a question of whether or not they need to be redone. I don't think we're questioning. It's just whether or not we want to, how we want to pay for it or finance it. I think that's really where we're at right now. The roof needs to be done. If it's not done this year, it needs to be done next year. I think we can patch it. We can patch the roads. You can do everything, but they need to be done. So it's just really where we're at is whether or not we want to finance it, or how we want to finance it, or we want to wait to see if we're in better financial shape. That's where we're really at.
Now, who is saying that we need a roof right now? I mean,
We've had plenty of contractors. We've been repairing it for quite a few years now.
Mr.
We've been
Mayor?
making repairs. And
how
we've
much
had-
in repairs have we spent?
I'd have to look at that, but it's, the repairs, it's just kind of like the roads, just kind of like we're talking with the infrastructure. Our repairs are getting to the point where your repairs are starting to exceed, you're taking good money and putting it after, bad money. It's time to do it. It's like when you get a 20-year roof, you're at your 20 years, you could still maybe go another year, but you need to do it. You don't want to keep putting more money into it.
All I have here is that roofing consultant is the guy saying that we need a new roof. You know,
Well, the question is, are you for the ordinance or against it? You'd be against it or for it
The roof, just for the roof. Would you be against or for the ordinance?
with what
an
you have?
ordinance for what?
The roof.
I'd be against it.
Okay.
I would vote no. As we stand now.
Okay. Mary?
Should be
I would
first.
vote yes on the roof.
Jennifer?
As I said before, I had reserved myself in what we had originally talked about, and the additional roads being thrown in was just last week. So the roof, I reserved myself. I felt that I checked with Rob, got his input, who I value very much, and, it was past due being replaced in 2016. So the roof, I would be for. And the roof is a project that we can take out debt for.
Well, you can take out debt for all of them. They're all in front of us right now.
I'm saying as opposed to vehicles,
Right, I got you.
for the village.
I thought
So I mean, Mayor, right here, this guy Garland, for this guesstimate here, or whatever it is, they're providing a 30-year leak-free warranty covering both labor and material. Is that, do we have that kind of warranty now, or?
We're past 30 years.
Huh?
Oh, Denny,
We're
way
past 30
that.
years.
We're past.
Way past what?
We're past the 30 years on this roof.
There is
We're
no
past- I mean,
warranty.
We had a repair, we had some of the roof done, and it's beyond that. That's a different roof. And just so you know, on a $400,000 expenditure, we're gonna get bids. It's gonna go out to a bid package. We're gonna have multiple companies. That was taken just to give us an idea.
Yeah.
You know, what we would have to put in our notes for the roof. You know, we got multiple ones. That was, a bid that, the material we would be, you know, that the engineer put together, that would be the right material to use for this roof in 2021 and moving forward. So that's where that's at. That doesn't mean we're using that person or that business. That just means it helped us.
Make a
They procure,
decision.
yeah, they
Yeah.
procure bids, so they're,
Exactly.
yeah, so they're,
So we had an idea what to budget for, basically, and putting a note. So that's what that is. Right?
Yeah, Mayor Colgraf.
Yes.
Members of council, yeah, I still support ordinance 2021-18 as it is written, with the amendment to make sure we include the named streets, what we call the Horseshoe, Tulip, Chestnut, Hickory. I know we're talking about 400 here or 400 there. It's really what this discussion has come down to. Do you want to spend 400 or whatever the dollar amount is for Barclay, or 400 for the roof? We have a piece of legislation that is prepared for us in a draft form. I would be honored to introduce it for suspension, 2021-18, and to table the resolution or the ordinance for the roof until we start pulling out buckets. It's coming down to, it's going to be, one of these projects is going to be before us next year for the following year to take, if we're going to follow these programs. And again, I don't want to repeat myself, but putting these road projects together, there's a lot of benefit in bidding them at one time, especially Barclay being larger than the Horseshoe. You bring more bidders to the table, and I think we get a better opportunity along with that's how I would vote. I would vote yes for 2021-18, and whatever the number is for the roof, I would vote no.
Now, what my 2 cents is, because I didn't know really, I had an idea where Mr. Whedon was going to vote, because he stated his opinion. I wasn't too sure on how council was, and I've thought about it a lot. But where I was at, I feel like everybody, that Tulip, Hickory, and Chestnut, we need to do, because we're definitely tearing up. We're going to do the water repair on the one road, and then, you just can't do, it's basically, to me, that's, even though there's 3 different names, it's almost like one road, okay? You go in, you go out, it's a continuous, so to me, you pave the whole thing. You got 2 projects, you got a roof project and you got a road program, and they're basically at the same price. I mean, if we're talking finances, you could interchange either one. Okay, so if you're voting for the roof, and you're voting for part of the road project, or you're voting for the whole road project and not the roof, you're basically doing the same financially, correct?
No, this is $775,000. The road the Tulip, the Horseshoe, and the roof don't add up to $775,000.
What does it add up to?
It adds up to,
362, and then approximately 4, so 662.
yeah.
If we don't take a full 4 on the, or whatever, if you don't take the full 400,000 on the road program, and you just go with what's.
So it'd be less. Maybe 100,000 would be the thing. So my thing was, I think I'd repair the roof, and do the whole thing. That's just me. I'm gonna support council on whatever you do, because I think both need to be done, okay? Difference with the road versus the roof, I just think it's used more. I mean, here, you're here, then it can be repaired. I have questions on some of the comments that are made, and I will take that up with Rob, and you know, if we have issues that are thrown out there, help them, those need to be addressed regardless, okay? Those need to be addressed, and now that I'm hearing there's a health issue, which I haven't heard, so I'm a little upset about that,
Mr. Mayor,
okay?
I said it's a potential. I did
Okay.
not say that Rob said that in
But
any
even
way,
potential,
shape, or
potential
form.
goes from thing, when someone says potential, okay? So I need to find out, because if there's potential, we need to look at it and fix it now,
Certain.
okay? And I'll tell you what, if somebody knew there was potential and there's actually a health issue and it wasn't fixed and didn't make people aware, well, they got a problem.
Certain, but I just
Okay.
want to make sure
If
that
you
was,
tell me there's
those
a
were not
problem,
Rob's
someone's gonna
words.
get hurt and I don't address it, I'm negligent,
Right, but
okay?
I just want to
So
make sure.
those issues to me are important.
Right.
Okay, so, so that's where I'm at. I would not do the roof, and I would do the road repair, and I'll leave that at that. Everybody has their thing. I think, I'm glad you're gonna move forward with something, so I think it's wonderful. It's good for us, because I think, you know, if we vote to do the roof and do part of the road repair, we're doing some things to improve the infrastructure of the, I think that's a positive thing, so.
Mayor Collier, could I have
Yes.
one more? Just want to make one more comment as it relates to health. I'm talking about potential health issue. I just want to remind council to take a look, go back, take a look at your emails. You have emails in your box from some of our residents about the health issues or the safety issues as it relates to Barclay State. One I know for sure, last name is Mr. Williams. He wrote all of us an email regarding the injury to his son because of crumbling asphalt on Barclay, on Regency Drive. Plus, we have some recent ones. So we're talking, if we want to talk about health and safety, we know that when people walk through Barclay Estates, there is an inherent risk. Ms. Pellegrino is also, we have emails from her as it relates to Barclay and the health and safety risk that's there. It's before us. It's just in front of our eyes. We have a problem, and we have an opportunity to correct this problem and make it go away for the benefit and safety and health of our residents.
Okay, so, where are we at? Because what we don't want to do, I'd like to see, if we're going to move forward, get some things passed, or not passed, or if we're not going to pass something, we don't want to shoot it down, maybe, or how do we want to approach it? It sounds like you have the,
Mayor
how does council feel?
Mayor Colgraf and Council President Allen, I certainly would still, whichever the vote go, if we're going to vote on something tonight, I would like to offer 2021-19 for suspension tonight. As is written, with the amendments to include the other main streets.
You mean 18, not 19. 19's the roof.
18, I'm sorry, 18. 2021-18 with the amendment to include the other main streets that are not.
But Mr. Whedon, and help me out, Council President, what I'm hearing is that if you did introduce that right now, okay, it's not gonna pass. Is that correct? Am I hearing that?
As
Help me
written,
out. I mean-
as written.
I mean,
it won't
otherwise I'm
pass.
just gonna
Yeah,
say
that's what
reintroduce
you're
it.
hearing.
Right,
and
as
we'll
written, it won't
do I
pass.
mean, I'm trying to, I wanna move us forward in a positive way here. So let's discuss what we wanna do here.
I'd vote no.
I mean, we could just do the vote and then thing, or do we want to make an amendment to it? You know, or you want to take something out and
I thought we said that. I
we,
said,
okay?
Right.
Mary and I agreed this is the way that we thought it should be.
So how
Next
does
year,
that work if Mr. Whedon made that, because I mean, I'm not trying to control, this is, you know, this is, I'm the chair, but this, when we go into our council meeting, we're still in the COW meeting, okay? We want, you know, we want to, you know, do it right. And we, but Ray, you know, if you introduce it that way, and you've seen the discussion here among us, among the your members, it's not going to pass, from what I see and hear. So somebody else would either have to introduce it with the amendment, or, you know, to remove Barclay Estates, and then move it forward that way. And let me just tell you something, because I want this very, very clear. And I did mention this to Mr. Spitzenagel today, because he's the only one that I did talk to, okay? Not on purpose. I mean, we all, guys could have called her, just, we had to discuss something else. But I made it very clear to Angela, I wanted to have 3 pieces of legislation. Because I didn't want anyone to feel like they're getting strong-armed about one being in the other, okay?
We have that.
But when they did talk to Brickler and Eckler, they said what you can do, you can't add, but you can take away, okay? So that's why it's in, okay? Just so you know. It wasn't a thing about, okay, well, why didn't the mayor have it where we add it, and we just could have had it maybe, because legally, and John went through it with her, it's not the same. You could remove it, Angela, because I had.
You can always take
discussion
less money on a contract or anything like that, yes,
but
yes.
they don't, on the note, it's very hard to add, okay? So that was discussed.
So I have a second draft, because rather than us piecemeal it ourselves, Catherine did do the second draft for me, which is basically my original presentation to you of the road program with that. The only thing I would have to add if you amend is you want the names in there for Hickory, Tulip, and Chestnut.
But you can't use that draft because it's not in here, and I tried to.
But we can,
explain
and
it.
that's what I explained to you, Mayor.
Well, I don't-
It's the
I-
same legislation. If you choose to take out, it's still gonna remain 2021-18.
Well, you and Catherine.
And I did
decide
talk to
that.
Mr. Mantello about this as well. We're not gonna
Okay.
change the ordinance number. You're just going, this is just her cleaning it up for me so that all the street names were already removed. Should Barclay be the only thing you wanna remove from it?
Okay.
The question is, will somebody make a motion to that effect?
Okay,
Right,
Then they'll have
right.
to make a motion. Okay, so that's the same.
So
Doesn't
you,
matter.
right, you just need to decide how you want it presented in the meetings. They're gonna vote on it all.
Right.
Mayor Colgrove?
Yes.
Can I ask one question? And this is for Angela. Angela, what is your timeline for, that we must have legislation passed for new money?
That's tonight, or unless you're gonna meet tomorrow night, which I couldn't honestly be here for, but we do pricing next Wednesday. And so any of the money, being the refunding and this, if we're gonna do it at this time, we need to pass this.
If you want to add it to our existing.
If you don't wanna
note,
add anything, it's not going to the existing note, this is new money,
but
that's
it's
the
giving you
point.
the OMAP money.
It's giving you the OMAP rating, correct, it goes in with the OMAP rating.
Because they
If-
can
if-
still
if
get
you-
notes after
If you
this.
table all of it, right, if you table all of it, then you table all of it and you go out later and we just do it a different way.
Right. It's not like if you can't, if we don't do it now, you can never get another note or bond it out. We were just trying to do it with,
Right, correct. While we're doing OMAP, while we're already paying for, you know, our bond counsel and for, you know, all the rest of the pieces,
Right.
parts, save that 22,000 extra, you know, because every penny counts, and that's why you're presented with all of it now. You're free to say, scrap it all, let's wait, and let's come back to it at another time.
Mayor,
Yes.
That's-
I want to make a correction to the mathematics, and Angela, correct me if I'm wrong. We're talking $775,000 for 2021-18. No, the only thing that we would be adding, because the $550,000.
That's already in the other one.
Is already
Done.
in the other thing.
Correct. done.
So
It's
it's
over.
not a difference of $100,000, it's a difference between $775,000 and $257,000 for the horseshoe.
257, if you're gonna only do horseshoe, then that leaves me to come up with the other 105,000 on that crack ceiling repair stuff where we have grant.
Exactly,
Correct.
so,
And then the roof,
plus.
though. Okay.
So
I'm
if
not
you take
talking
that
about the
apart,
roof.
you, yes, if you
you're
only.
gonna add the roof into 775.
That's not part of that, separate
That's not part of
ordinance.
that.
Separate
Now we're up to 1.175 million. For the road, for 2021-18 plus the roof, that's 1,175,000. If we just did the horseshoe, that's 257 plus the 100.
Yep.
Get the buckets out, get the buckets out.
Oh, that's me.
Get-
Oh, there he is.
Oh, Mayor. Carly,
Plus
you get
the
told.
100, what was it, 105? Or,
Well,
there's
right,
two-
that's 75 and 30 on the other pieces in
So
the
105.
2022 road program that we're already in there, yes.
That's,
So if you
that's a
don't take
difference
extra.
between 775,000 and 362,000. That's not just $100,000 different. That's 362,000, plus, and then if we did the roof, that would of course add the $400,000.
Right, if you choose not to cushion it all and do exactly 362 on the road, 2022 road program and then roof, that'll put you at 762.
762 as opposed to 1.125 million.
Correct.
But what I would say, not do the roof.
I understand, but we're, yeah. And there is a difference with the roads. I understand, I very much understand the Barkley Estates. And Joe Gelati told us that when we add the $50,000, which we had been planning on doing, that they can fix those, and it's not cold patching, it's actually fixing those spots in Barkley repair that has been addressed in emails. They can fix those.
Correct.
Councilman Spitznagel, if
Go
I
ahead.
might, the fixing is the actual digging out and completely
Correct.
repaving those areas, those spot areas. And that's why I was reserved with what we said, because Joe said that we could easily get 2 years out of that, and at that time, we would be ready then for Barkley Estates to be repaved.
I mean, I can go on Spanghurst where I live, and you walk it all the time, okay? Barkley Estates, I know it's, people are complaining. They're not complaining on any other roads either. They're, you know,
Here, right there.
we have complaints all over the village about the roads. So just because people are complaining, Joe set this plan in motion. If he felt that Barkley Estates needed to be done first, he would have put that first.
Councilman Spitznagel, if I may, let's be reminded that with, you know, both Barkley Estates and the Horseshoe are both rated as poor. There is no very poor
Right.
rating.
Right.
The Horseshoe, part of the discussion around the Horseshoe was when we do the water main replacements, then we will also do the paving. So that was part of the,
Right.
so it's not necessarily that the Horseshoe's road conditions are worse. It was originally coupled with, we're gonna do this, we gotta pull up some asphalt to do these water mains, that would be the opportune time to do the Horseshoe. So if you're talking about, strictly talking about condition and condition, it's condition versus condition. Yeah, the Horseshoe's bad. I rode it today. I didn't see you, Mr. Harkey, but I rode it today. And I ride my bike through this village all the time. I rode Horseshoe, I rode Spanghurst today. But when I ride Barkley, it's like taking your life in your own hands. Because you don't know because you can't ride Barkley. It's a totally different animal when we're talking about actual condition of the road, at least the beginning, at that entrance area. So yeah, Horseshoe wasn't necessarily in front, at front because of its condition. It was tied, originally
It
tied.
is partly though, so if you go
Partly.
back to Joe's papers and you
Yeah.
look at the years that the roads were last resurfaced,
87.
you're looking at 2002 for Colonial
Yeah.
Court, you're looking at
Yeah.
Laurel Drive, 2002. We're going way back to 1983 in that horseshoe.
Right, I get it.
But you know what? See this, but I just wanna make a point, okay?
Is that for me?
I have, that age, when you go by that, doesn't, I have a driveway, I have no cracks in my driveway,
Yeah.
okay? My driveway's older than my neighbor's driveway, who's newer, has got more cracks. So that doesn't mean
Well,
I
the point being-
necessarily replace my driveway.
They're all in the poor condition.
Because mine's old, I'm not gonna replace mine, I have no cracks.
They're all equally listed as poor
So,
by Joe.
condition could be when it's made, it could be how much salt, how much cars go down it, it could be a lot of things. It
That
could
was
be
my
so.
question for Joe last week.
Well-
So that, I just wanna make that point.
And I get that, Mayor, but if you look at Joe's list in order,
But we're
you're
getting
gonna,
off
I'm
track
just
here.
saying, you're gonna, it's not, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because you're all interspersed with Barclay and that horseshoe.
I think what we
All up at the top of the poor list.
agree on is, we got a program here and you got roads on it. I don't think we're at a point, I mean, you're getting on a different, I mean, whatever.
Okay. So let's backtrack, are we amending or not?
Yeah.
These poor residents have been
I
waiting.
mean, unless you wanna, well, you guys wanna take comments from the residents before we go ahead?
I mean, I can address, some are just comments. So backing up to the first comment from Lee Nielsen, and Mayor, I'm gonna address this just because I have figures in front of me.
Okay, that's fine.
Perhaps the village can consider selling the event center and relieve the village of that debt for this lightly used building. I have to point out to you, we owe, after this year's pay down, $445,000 on the building. We purchased it at $550. Because we're a government, we can only sell it at appraised value. So basically, if it appraises at $550 again, even $600, that money's $100,000 not gonna do the road program much good, right? So selling the building would not be the answer for that reason alone. It's not gonna relieve enough of what we would need for the road program. And then Lee did say roads are critical both to quality of life and home values. We don't want to be a community of rundown homes and roads and businesses. Then we've got Bovary Jeffries saying, well said, think about the residents, concerned that other streets don't matter. Brian, you made a comment about assessing residents down the road. How much would they be assessed? He also mentioned, so the village is pretty much broke. And then he did say because I was not able to interject, thanks for Barclay not changing, only the road deterioration. And then Bovary wanted to point out that residents are members too, and if people are complaining, it needs to be addressed no matter what street it is. That's it, that's all the comments. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Gloria. Karlowski.
we're talking about the horseshoe again, and it's water mains is the problem there. So if those aren't fixed, then these people are gonna be without water, for how long and all this stuff. Riding your bike down Barclay, don't ride down Barclay. Go someplace else and ride your bike. That's the way I see it. The other people have more of an issue than riding their bikes. If the road is that bad, you have to use common sense and go slower with your car or do something else. We are trying to do something here, and if we could get the roof on here and fix that horseshoe, we have accomplished something. We have done something with infrastructure. And the next one to be fixed would be Barclay then, if would be the next one that needed to be done, if things got better financially and we could do it. That's the way I see it. This roof should have been fixed many, many years ago.
Everybody's looking to the chair, huh? Comes back to me.
Well, Chair-
I'm here to.
Chair, while you were collecting your
Yeah.
thoughts, this roof, on this building, with the estimate that was made or original back in 2016, has been pushed down the road. But so has the road program. The same road program, this document that we have in front of us, this is not the first time we've seen this, the council has seen this document. this document has been pushed down the road for many years. So, I'll just put it that way. It's not like this is the first time that Mr. Gelati has given us a road program. This also has been pushed to the point of disrepair. And if you have an opportunity, by taking advantage of dollars available, or although it's debt, it's not necessarily jumping the schedule, but it is in a sense jumping the schedule. It's just taking advantage of an opportunity to do more of your road program slightly ahead of schedule than what's there. 2.9 or whatever it is, it's still going to be there for the other 3 years, the rest balance of it. But if you have an opportunity to do something now, I just would support it with it now. And I think I've done.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think we're all pretty set in what we've decided. I mean, if you want a 6-0 vote, I don't think that's gonna.
I'm not looking for, the vote's gonna be on you. What I don't want as the chair, Mary, is I think it'd be, you're not saying you want to defeat. It'd be different if everybody up here said, I don't want to do anything and stuff, then we
Right, right.
But what you don't want to do is go a thing and then introduce it one way, and then this is the COW needs
Introduce
time
it clean.
to figure
Right.
out how you want to move forward in the special council meeting.
Right, okay,
So
okay, just,
lay it out
yeah.
how you think it should go then, or somebody, I mean, I can help with that too. I
Mr.
mean-
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm still, I very much appreciate and respect Mr. Whedon's opinion of the finances and of the matter. I'm not willing to put the village in a situation where we may not be able to pay our debt payments. I would rather be wrong today than vote for it and be wrong later on, next year or in 2 years. I guess to me that's the lesser of two evils. And it's not like we're not going to address Barkley in the spring. Those major portions will get fixed. No, it won't get a complete repave, but the major portions would be fixed if we just stuck with this. That's where I'm at with it, and I'm just not willing to gamble with the residents. I know some people want a new road, but I'm not willing to gamble right now with, had we done this 5 years ago, that would have been an extra, over $110,000 out of our budget. We only have $500,000 in the bank, as Angela just said. We'd be
In
broke.
the savings.
In the savings.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, in the savings, we'd be broke right now. Okay? That's where we would be, had we not kicked the proverbial can down the road. We'd be broke. So I'm not willing to gamble at this time, since our revenues aren't all that greater than they were 5 years ago. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Jennifer.
When we had the initial discussion and the infrastructure meeting with Joe, and what needed to be done, and with Rob's input, I went through everything. I was not happy about us having to take more debt out at that time. I understood that those roads, the horseshoe had not been done since 1983. I thought we had a plan so that we could extend Barkley Estates, make it safe and better without having to incur more debt for it, was how it was put to me by Joe. The roof issues, again, I spoke with Rob at the meeting. I was the one that said, Rob did not say potential health issues. That was my comment. so I just want to be clear on
That's
that too.
fine.
You know,
I
when-
still have to address it, but that's fine.
Certainly, but, you know, when I was told that there was saturated insulation being pulled out of there, to me, that is a concern, you know, and
Right.
which
It should
potentially
be.
can just lead to more deterioration of the building, and again, leaving the roads can lead to more deterioration of the roads. But I thought we had a temporary solution for Barclay Estates with $50,000 going there for the needed spot repairs everywhere. And I was told that those spot repairs were going to be the same as what they would do a spot repair on a main road. So it wasn't just cold patch thrown in, and next time the plow comes down, it's all crumbling again. So I thought we had a plan, and that's why I keep saying my reservation is this new stuff was added just last week that I have not had time to digest and figure out. I'd reserved myself to the original plan. I want to get the roads done for everybody. Okay? I've been going door to door. I have hit almost every single household in this village. And I've walked the majority of it, except for our main roads, because I like living. Okay?
You
And
live
that's
by
just
the
because
speed
of
camera, you should be
traffic.
okay.
So, you know, I have not walked, I've driven on all of our main roads. Actually, not even all of them, mostly Sagamore, Dunham, and Alexander. But I digress. Everybody has a complaint about their roads. And I understand that. And maybe Keiden's not so bad because it's a much smaller road with less traffic. But I'm gonna tell you what, there's a ton of traffic on Shaner. You don't think Shaner's a big road? There was Amazon and Prime trucks going up and down there all day long. All of our roads are getting hit, I understand. My concern is the extra debt coming out. We only have $550,000 in savings, period. And I'd like to try to keep this as minimal as possible. I reserved myself to the original plan and the roof. I'm not happy that we need to take the debt out on that. I don't want to seem like I'm voting against a road project by any means, because they do all need done. They all need done. Across the street from me, but Notting Hill, they're only listed as fair, and they were last done in 2007. It's like the newest street in here. You know, so,
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to say, this is not about not wanting to help the residents. Not at all. I mean, we all have bad roads, some worse than others. We also don't want to leave debt and leave an enormous amount of debt because we don't know the future. And it's going to be addressed. There's going to be at least somewhat of a remedy this spring. And hopefully that'll carry us to the planned date when this was set to be done. I mean, we don't have it in for the residents in the least. I mean, if we all could do it, we'd repave the whole village. But we've been walking a fine line for many years, and at least we're out of debt now. You know, we're not in the red at the end of the year. And that's just my thought.
Okay, so we're ready for adjournment and going to the special council meeting, and would like to introduce those and we vote on them, or we're not ready to vote on them, or,
We need to do this tonight, don't we?
let's, I mean, well,
Whatever you'd
here's
like
your
to take,
option,
yeah.
here's your option.
Unless you
okay,
don't
'cause this is
wanna
what I'm
wait for
hearing.
everything.
Jennifer, you're saying you're not ready. Brian, you've made a commitment. I mean, do you want to move forward with something? I mean, are we looking, I hear the roof, I hear the thing. I mean, it's up to you, it's up to you guys here. You know, I gave my opinion, everybody's given their opinion, Angela's given her opinion. It's, what do you want? I mean, we got the special council meeting. I mean, do we want to, you know, take this opportunity with these notes here or do we not want to? I mean, that's what's in front of us.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. With all due respect again to Mr. Whedon, if he wishes to introduce 2021-18 as written, I would I would introduce another variable. I don't know how that is going to work, with the authorization for the horseshoe. And that would be it for that one. And then I would introduce the roof and see where the votes are. Maybe we won't get enough votes for either
No,
one.
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
fine.
That's
That's how
true.
you feel, that's
That's
fine.
true.
Does that sound, I mean,
You said you would vote, what was, say it again, Brian.
yes,
The
ma'am.
horseshoe, and what was the other part?
I would introduce one for the bonding of the horseshoe as planned by Mr. Gelati. And then I would introduce this other one, -19, I believe it is.
So, right, correct. So 19 could be introduced, but if Mr. Whedon's going to introduce 18, then you're going to have the discussion to amend it and vote as amended versus, we can't
Okay.
assign it a new number now
I
because
see.
that's a new piece of legislation then that you didn't already present.
I see.
So
Okay.
we would just be voting to amend it.
The 400,000 or nothing.
Right, you would have discussion, either for, or we
The
can go
number would be-
362, we can, whatever you want to do.
The number would be
If you don't want to take that extra 38,000.
257 plus the 105.
Yes,
So that would be 362.
362, no, it's on the road program sheet, 362. So you'd want to take it without the cushion, got it.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, if
we
we're
could
amending, we
throw
can do
something.
that. So while we're amending the language, we can amend the amount as well. We know that there's grant money we can't lose on the horseshoe, so that needs to stay put if you're gonna.
The grant money
yes.
for the water.
For the water main in the horseshoe,
repair,
correct.
Not for the repaving,
So if
separate
you,
issue.
so if you
Yeah.
don't repave it, then we have to find that money later,
Right,
obviously.
right.
But, right, so once we are amending and we're in there amending, we can also amend that amount and not take 400,000. It can go less. We
I
can
think
remove my
the-
cushion.
The extra money maybe for the cost of the transactions.
No, I just cushioned it basically for the,
for the
in
400,000.
case there were other incremental things that came up with the road program itself. That was my cushion.
Those
So
are all
you-
estimates too.
So you would cushion it by 38,000?
Yes, I rounded
And
up.
if we
yeah.
didn't need that 38,000?
Then that could be used for some other things we would need, right? Because now our legislation still has that verbiage in there. Can I have that back, John?
For other road repair.
To
or
say,
other-
any other streets located within the village between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together, right? So then that could kind of roll, yeah, if we don't use it, that one can roll. And when we would take next year's money, or do whatever we're doing with next year's money, that money could factor in. We can leave it outstanding and factor it into next year's. Because we've made the legislation broad enough to do that.
I'm sorry, Angela, could you explain that again, please?
The extra 38 that I put in as a cushion, it could be that we're gonna go to do the 2022 road program and we use it all up, right? And that's why, cost of things could go up. If that's not used up, it can be moved forward, so when we refund our notes next year, we can consider that 38,000 and say, hey, we didn't end up spending that, that's less we're gonna need to take on whatever else we take. Or hey, if we got a windfall and we pay it back, but, so because the verbiage in the legislation covers other potential things that would come up in there, we can move that over and decrease what we would be needing essentially for another road program, whether we take that in notes or fund it some other way, but that would be 38,000 less if it's not spent, that we could potentially use the following year.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I will go back to where I started from a couple hours ago, with this year's road program being $55,650 plus the 18, right? So we're talking $73,650, right, for this year's program. That would be included in that 105,000, correct? To repeat the numbers, program is $55,650. That's our out-of-pocket for the 2021 road program. Plus the road striping was another 18,000. Okay? So that's $73,650. That $73,000 is included.
That 73 has nothing to do with 2022.
I understand. What's the 105,000?
This 105 is for crack sealing that will be done in 2022, and also
Okay.
the county
The
road
other
maintenance
crack
in
sealing.
2022.
Okay.
So like that county road maintenance is something we've been fortunate to get a grant for each year, we
That
do
was
each
this
year.
Yeah, okay.
But,
that
right,
was
so this is strictly
2022.
2022. I know it's a little confusing, because we pass, for some of these, we pass now, and the bill gets paid next year, but this is for what will, work that will be done in 2022, not what was already done in 21. We've already had that in the budget.
No,
I'm-
okay, so,
All of our
Now
crack
I'm
sealing
confused.
and all of our stuff this year that was already done in 21 or will be within this next 2 months, already in this year's budget.
and that's a crack sealing of Egbert, Sagamore, spot repairing Dunham, Egbert, Sagamore, all that?
Whatever Joe's got in his programs, yes, I don't have a 2021 in front of me, because,
Okay.
okay, so
So
then
that
those,
work will be done and finished
that
this
should be done and
fall.
finished, right? What you just
Yes.
bid out, right, to Specialized, should be
Yes.
done and finished
Yes.
before the end of the year. It's not going into any of this note stuff. This note stuff is all for 2022. So we do this maintenance, obviously, each year on varying parts
Okay,
of the roads,
well,
but.
I'm wondering with the maintenance, again, I'll just go back to where I began. If we do $100,000, well, you know, the total interest on the 74,000 is 43,000. I mean, that's more than half over the 20 years. So do we want to bond that portion out? I know, I'm just going to throw that out, that 105,000.
I
or
don't
do we
think, well, if you're gonna
wanna
bond something out,
pay?
you're gonna bond a big you're gonna bond a big amount
You're
out.
gonna
You're not gonna
bond-
bond out $100,000. That's,
Right, but we're including the 100,000 in the bond, in that. You're including you're lumping in the
Well, think of
105
it this
plus the
way, though.
257.
but think of it this way. These are more immediate costs that we know we're gonna incur. Maybe, he might be able to not crack seal Jefferson and all that. But these Dunham, Egberts, because we've got grant money
Mhm.
that's already been awarded from the county,
Mhm.
We gotta do.
we're gonna do it. So I gotta come up with the money one way or the other, whether it's in here or not. And I know it's not a huge amount, so yeah, if I gotta cut some stuff and come up with it, I can. But those are things that already need to get done. Now, yeah, we don't have any kind of reimbursements coming on the 30,000, but that's again, just some maintenance on those roads. I mean, I know you're trying to take as little as possible, but I'd almost caution you to not nickel and dime it on
I
100,000.
understand.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand, yeah.
Because it's
Um,
gotta come from somewhere anyway.
So just so we are aware, we're, you know, just on a straight amortization of about $800,000.
For
Because we're at
roof and the-
762, 775 is $104,900 a year, okay, that we have to come up with.
Well, yes and no, because don't forget, you're gonna piece that out to come up with, yes, that's the average of it, but you're gonna come up with less probably in the beginning, and if, you know, as things move forward, you'll pay more down. Just like anything else we've already had out.
Right. Okay. So if Mr. Whedon wants to introduce that, and somebody wants to, then
Motion
would-
to amend it,
would
make a
Is
motion
that
to
what it
amend.
is?
They would have to make a motion.
amendment, that we would vote on the amendment? Is that how?
You would vote on the motion to amend, right, John, then vote on the actual amendment.
Yes. But I guess the question is if the roof isn't going forward, are we still just gonna do?
I think the roof is going forward.
No, the roof's gone.
The roof's going forward.
Sounds like the roof's.
But they're in
going.
two different
Yes.
bonds.
So we
Two
can
different
change
ones.
that.
Yeah, the
Two
roof is a
different
separate
pieces of
legislation all by
legislation.
itself, John.
All right,
So the roof doesn't, yeah, if it's going forward, then we don't need to touch it. We don't need to touch it.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you want to do it that way, Ray introduce it and amend it, but I mean,
It almost makes sense to amend it now. Like, introduce it as clean as you can would be my,
well, you got to amend it
Right.
because you can't
Right.
change it. You got,
Yeah.
it's
so
it's
no
there,
going in what
so
you're gonna do.
That's what we want to do? Is that the way that's probably the cleanest way to do it, John?
We introduce it and then, are we at 362 or 400,000? What are we gonna do? Are we clear on
Yeah,
that?
that's the other question you presented.
Yeah, doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it's up to you. So whatever amount it is,
Anybody?
it would be amended to, from 750, whatever it is.
775
775 to
to-
either 400,000
or 362.
360.
We'll write up the amendment.
Yeah, I
so
know.
somebody can
Yeah, I
take
can
it.
go, yeah.
Yeah, well, not yet, wait till,
Right, I need to know.
right, once everybody get an amount.
Yeah, we'll draft the amendment.
Everybody comfortable with that? Ready to move forward to the special council meeting? Now, you want to make it to 400 or to 3?
62. Doesn't matter to me.
And if the money's not used, I suppose you can use it for other crack sealing or road.
Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah, it's in there, you can, very broad.
That would be fine by me.
I,
Because that
To
money
go with
should be
what
used.
amount?
personally, I really wish that we could have had an infrastructure meeting with all of this additional, with Joe and Rob here. I value both of their opinions.
I'm not sure what else Joe could tell
Yeah.
you. I'm just being honest. Joe and I have sat down several
Yeah,
times. He
it's
was at your
not
last
about-
meeting.
It's not about whether the roads are bad,
No,
it's
I
about
know,
whether
but
you
that
want to
was-
finance them. I
My-
mean, that's all I
My
see.
reason- My reasoning is because this is what Joe had initially proposed.
And that's what he would stick to. He and I've talked about this.
Yeah. Hey, there's no, I mean,
This
unless
is
you,
the
well, you don't have
financing
to.
issue.
Jennifer, you can lobby the group here, you
This
guys
is
don't
the
have to pass
financing
any of this.
line,
We've
yeah.
already passed the notes that we needed to pass. Okay, I don't want you to take any of this as negative. What happened was, our debt service said there was money available. We
Right.
knew, we've been talking for years that eventually we're gonna have to bond the roads out
Reduce
or
the
add
fund.
them to our note. So when our notes came up, I said, Angela, is there, can we add to it? And that's when Brickler and Eckler just said, they're not gonna look at it, they have to look at it. It's not that we did it the last one, but they have to look at it at the present time because that's when they put it, am I right, Angela?
Yeah.
They can't go and look at everything because they market it and they look at
Exactly.
exactly where you're at that time.
Right, that's why we have a
So-
rate call next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Like,
so
we gotta-
if you're gonna be, I guess that's, we need to make clear, when it comes to notes, you're kind of in that position. You can't have them come out and then decide, they give you a rate, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, we go forward. It has to happen right, pretty much in
Right.
that time. What is it, a
Exactly.
month or something?
I don't even think it's that long. I mean, and we pay back our
Because
stuff
they go
November,
out for it. It's
November
just-
17th
it's-
is when our stuff is
They
due.
don't lock you in or anything
No.
like that, so
So
you're
right.
kind of in that position. So I don't want anybody, this isn't,
No, I understand.
Yeah, we're not
that.
trying to trick anybody.
No,
We're just trying to make it efficient.
It just, yeah, and it
More
just, it
efficiency.
came at this time. Our notes
Our notes are always due in
mature.
November.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, this is our renewal.
No, I understand
And
that,
so-
and like I said, I thought we had a plan in effect in that, and,
If we
a
didn't,
week later, it's, changing.
Right.
And stuff then. That's what I'm uncomfortable about with,
So-
again.
and that's fine.
And it's on me, I mean, I'm the one with the job and stuff, I'm not retired to be poring over this stuff all day long. That's completely on me, and I accept that. And I've tried going through this, I'm just saying that this is where I was, and now I feel like I'm trying to be pushed into another direction when I had reserved myself one way. And that's where I stand right now.
So I'll say this, last meeting, we had the infrastructure committee report, right? And so that's why, out of that discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody around, Barclay was brought up, not by more than one person, so that's why we figured, okay, let's introduce it and keep it in the legislation for this meeting. Not so much to try to rush anybody to it, but your committee report had Barclay in the discussion. So So that's why I figured, let's cover it, this is what your legislation looks like, if it's in there,
And if we didn't, just remember this,
but,
you got,
Yeah.
your
don't
notes
have to
came
do it.
up, they said we can go, we could add money to them.
Right,
If we didn't have this discussion, we
Right.
wouldn't be doing our due diligence.
right.
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 Just remember that, we
Right.
wouldn't be doing our due diligence, okay? Whether we vote for it or against it, we discussed it.
Right,
Mm-hmm,
right.
you did.
Okay, we did
You
our
did.
due diligence.
Yeah.
If a month later, at the end of the year, we're having budget discussions, and you guys say, oh, I wish we'd have noted that out, and Angela says, oh, I told the mayor that we could have got more money, you guys would have said, why didn't you say something?
Yeah,
So that just, so it's not, it's all okay. We're, you know, we're doing the right thing here.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
These discussions are tough. I mean, I've been in these positions for a long time in this body here. Brian will tell you. You're gonna walk out of here with, you can't always make a vote that's gonna make everybody happy.
Or
Yeah.
yourself.
Or yourself.
yeah.
You gotta make the
exactly.
vote that you think is the right vote for the majority of the people you represent. And keeping the fiscal responsibility of the village there too, because that's the other half we have. I'm no different than you. I might not have a vote. I do have a vote now. Took the vote away, I won't have it after next year. I
Right.
already stressed my opinion on that. But it's, you know, you still have that fiscal, we are still responsible for the purse strings. So that's very important that we're discussing that part too.
Say that again?
We're responsible for the money, Denny, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's one of our biggest responsibilities. Plus, we're responsible for keeping the residents safe, another responsibility.
Right.
Even your employees.
The rec center, that,
Mr.
I
Mayor.
would never sell that. I tell you why. Because just like residents have said, you need good roads. You need to offer your residents some place to go. We all know you just can't work. That's why communities in fiscal emergency, they don't close their rec centers, they keep them open. Because they know people, especially during stressful times, need somewhere to go. They need to talk. We're certainly finding that out during COVID.
Yeah, we've had
People
some
want to get
vacant-
together. People are depressed, they're in things, so I'm not getting on my can, but, so we're making whatever decision we make. No one's gonna say it's a bad one, it's a good one. It's the decision this body made.
well, 50% of them are gonna say it's bad and 50%
Doesn't
are
matter.
gonna
You
say
make
it's
the
good.
decision based on what you think is best, and that's why people elect us to make those decisions. If we needed to take it to the people, then you wouldn't need this body here. That's the bottom line.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
That's
when
it.
I was in the infrastructure meeting, the discussion about Barclay Estates was about the patching.
Okay.
It wasn't about totally redoing.
There you go, and I wasn't in your meeting.
That's what was talked about, and that's what Joe had recommended at that time to do. He didn't say, we're gonna move it up above other streets or anything else. So I thought that was the plan.
Let me, if we can backtrack a little bit, just to kind of recap what happened. Yes, that was part of the original plan, without a doubt. However, when, 3 weeks ago, when we, and Angela wasn't here to me, well, she was here, 3 weeks ago when we were presented with, the road plan document and the roof document, at 3 weeks ago. The roof was not part of the infrastructure committee discussion. Barclay has always been in there. But 3 weeks ago, when these two documents were brought to us, and then there was thought, or there was conversation that the materials for the roof may not even be available in 2022. That's when this councilman said, well, wait a minute. If we brought up a roof that's $400,000 and we're suspect, or I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but there's a potential that the material may not even be available in 2022. That's when I said, well, you know what? Let's enter the discussion, let's enter the discussion for, if we're gonna think about $400,000 for a roof, or whatever that dollar amount is, and the material may not be available, perhaps we could move Barclay ahead on the schedule because we know that we're gonna be doing the paving project. That's how Barclay got moved into the discussion in terms of bringing it forward in 2022 versus 2023, because the roof came into the discussion and there was uncertainty whether or not material would even be available. That's how that's how Barclay got into the 2022 discussion.
But we did discuss.
That's how it got into it.
We did discuss the roof in the infrastructure
No, we did
meeting
not.
because Rob was sitting
the
here
second
and I
one.
was sitting there.
Okay,
So
Alright.
that was discussed in the infrastructure meeting, and that's when the
Okay.
conversation was had about trucks versus a roof.
yeah. So, but still, and I don't know whether or not that material piece, I don't know where that lies either.
That was a statement I made.
Okay.
That was a statement I made. Rob says the contractor that they have says, no, they can get the material. But I can tell you, I've heard that, you all hear that. There's people out there that says, oh, my contractor says it'll be at my house, no problem, and doesn't show up, okay? And that's the same thing in the commercial end right now, okay? No one's gonna refuse work. You get the work, either get the material or not. Some material's available, some isn't, okay? And that might change. I mean, I watch the news, you don't even have to know anything about it. There's just getting things ordered, a simple part, unless it's not stocked in an area, you might not get it. We got ships sitting in different places, and I mean, is there a shortage of transporting, getting material from A to B? God, my gosh, that's not something I just made up. But maybe it'll be here tomorrow, if you order. Could be wrong, or maybe it could be a year. Create a conversation, didn't it?
Presented options.
That's it. So, we're still back to where we, all right. Okay, we're still in the committee of the whole meeting. So what do we want, what does council want to do here? Remember, we've already passed the notes, so this is just whether we wanted to add to them. If people aren't comfortable, we don't need to. Sound like we were comfortable, we're not, I mean, it's up to council here, what we want to do here. Do we want to move forward with 2021-19 with the roof and add that, or do you want to wait on that? Do you just, I think we definitely, is there consensus of chestnut, tulip, and hickory?
Yes,
Okay, so we got that.
yeah.
Okay, we know we're doing them, so that's a great thing. Okay, so we got chestnut, tulip, and hickory. We know we're gonna redo the water line, we're gonna repave that thing, okay.
And how much is that, just that?
So definitely,
257.
257,000. Okay, 257,000 and 400,000 for the roof. Okay, that's what I'm gonna vote for.
If, Mr. Mayor,
yes,
you know, the difference between, to beat a dead horse, the roof in Barclay, we are allocating money for Barclay for
repairs.
the repairs, to alleviate the major portions that are bad. It's not like we're not,
That's already a given. We've already,
yeah, it's gonna be in that's gonna be in the budget.
That was part of the
next year.
original plan.
Yeah, the problem that I see with allocating the 400,000 to Barclay initially, and then something terrible happens to the roof that can no longer be repaired, now we're really stuck. That we gotta fix that, and we gotta do something where repairing Barclay can stave that off. And it's, you know, if anything, if we decided that the 400,000 was too much, I would say not do the roof either, but not do Barclay either, because we've got the $50,000, and stay in the black. Make sure we stay in the black. But that's the difference with me between the roof and Barclay. And residents are gonna be safe. We're not, I mean, if this body if Joe Gelati walked in here tonight and said Barclay is, which he's done before, and Don Sheehy has done before, this is a hazard. It's a tragedy waiting to happen. He's done it with culvert pipes before. He's done it with other roads. One of them was on Rollins, I believe, several years ago, that they had to fix under an emergency basis. We'd all say, okay, bond it out right now and just do it, you know, but they're not saying that. Our engineers aren't saying that. So that's where I am at with it. I don't, you know, that's, some people are gonna say I'm right, some people are gonna say I'm wrong.
Catherine mentioned a loud vibrating noise, so I'm trying to see if it was that noise coming from the ceiling or if there's something else. Nobody's cell phones are near the mics,
Any
right?
comments from any of the residents?
No, other than that, no. Other than the loud vibration noise, no. That was Catherine's business.
Well, are we ready to adjourn and move through the legislation? Do you have something? Okay. Or do we kind of know where we're at, or what we want to do?
I just wanted to be sure, Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Nielsen had his hand up earlier, and we kept kind of overlooking him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
We talked about the.
You gotta come up to the,
It was much earlier. It was about.
I guess I need to put my glasses back on.
Yeah, it was about the water, the roof leaking and stuff. And yeah, we did have buckets here at one time. I don't know if you remember that, we walked in here one night and the floor was covered with water. So, he's patched it and he's patched it. When we talked with Rob when I was on council, and they patched it to the point where it needs to be repaired. You know, I remember the big bucket they had sitting there, it was half full. So if you look up those lights, you can see the stains in the lights. You can see that the water's come through there, so. But that's it, that was much earlier.
Thank you.
Oh, you did have one more comment prior to Catherine's about the vibration, and that was from Bovary Jefferson again, that says, wow, this was pertaining back to the whole not riding your bike on, wow, I live on Barclay, I can't ride my bike. That was the last comment there. And I apologize if that vibration noise, we have something going in and out, it seems, in the ceiling of noise here.
Not me this time.
It's not, I checked, everybody's phones are away.
Oh, it's Mary.
I don't know.
She just, was it always up there?
Hers was always up there. I don't know, it comes, it feels,
was
I
way
feel,
over
I feel
here.
like it's in the ceiling, but.
Who knows?
I know. We have. We've been here sometimes to 11 o'clock. I'm Brian and things
Yeah.
like this and
Some of us
Denny.
have homework to do when we go home.
Moving into the council meeting, I think that
I'll
this
do
is
whatever.
just one of those times we're not gonna get
Oh, no, that's fine.
And that's
But I just want to know, so you're comfortable with what direction you're going.
Right.
You know, because if you're going to introduce these in a different thing, I mean, it's up to you. I'm ready to, it's up to council. If you're ready for adjournment, but I just didn't know if you need to get anything in order, you know, for the thing. If you're ready for an adjournment, I'll
Yeah.
ask for adjournment.
Before you adjourn, Mayor, I had one more comment. That was regarding the 362 and then the rounding, because I'm not sure what the number is if we do an amendment. But I had a note that I added, because the 50, if there's potential 50 for Barclay, that's not in this.
That's not part of that, that's something totally unrelated that Joe took care of within this year's money and this year's grants.
No.
Yes,
okay.
yes, Joe and I have talked about that, that's not part of that.
So I had a note of 412 was the number that I had for the actual 2022. Because you had to add that 50.
No, you don't have to add that 50, that's something Joe's worked out in another fashion.
Joe doesn't have no money, but.
He doesn't have no money.
He doesn't, but he meets with me, so I know.
No, but
I mean,
it
I'm
is.
just saying,
It's in part of the striping and repair.
it's already,
from-
yes, it's already located
yes.
in another
So-
section.
So you're saying that's in the.
It's taken care of.
In the
in
works.
2021, it's in the works, right, it's not, it doesn't need to be included in new money for 2022.
So you're saying it's in the 75 for the
I'm
county
saying it's
road
not on that
maintenance?
anywhere.
It's not on this document?
It's part of something from 2021 funding. Funding we already have right now, I do believe. I don't, unless he's squeezing it into that particular one, same thing, different year, but
Okay, yeah, okay, now the other point I was gonna make is,
Yeah.
so if we do the 362 or the 412, whatever that number is for 2022, this is to be reminded that the 667 is still looking at us in 2023. And that's where the mayor was talking about it. It really doesn't change. It's just a matter of, you take a portion of this now and move it ahead while there's some saving. We're looking at 667 for 2023. So it doesn't go away. The commitment doesn't go away. It's still there. But yeah, I'm not clear on where that 50 comes from.
yeah, we could talk, we'll talk about it, you can, yeah. I gotta double check with Joe, but he said not to, I didn't need to include it in the number, so he knows what he's doing with it.
So we don't need to include that
It's not
50
included in anything we're doing tonight.
Right, exactly,
you
but
don't
it will
need
be
to.
included in next year's
It will be
budget.
included in the program,
Yeah.
it will be included in the budget,
The 50,000
As part
in road
of-
repairs are gonna happen.
right.
In Barclays.
So it will come out of the village budget somewhere, not through these notes.
It's not gonna be through the notes, correct.
And it's already there and set to be done.
Do you wanna call him to make sure?
No, that's something different. Has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
motion. But John mentioned to me about, which I think everybody knows, if you do wanna pass this tonight, you're gonna need 5, at least for suspension, okay? Which is fine, I mean, even if you're gonna vote no, you should give the body an opportunity to do that. So voting for suspension is, we know, Denny, I mean, it just gives the body, you can still vote no on it, you're just saying, okay, we don't wanna put it off. I'm gonna agree with the suspension, but I can still
Right.
vote yes or no, up or down. It just means, the opportunity to pass it tonight or not pass it tonight, because that's where you're at. You basically got that, unless you wanna have another meeting, but I don't think anything's really gonna change from now until tomorrow, or now until Monday, or now even a while. I don't think nothing, you already got my opinion, I don't think nothing's gonna change at all. Except I hope that things change for the better maybe, with our revenues, which I think they will. But,
Also, Mayor, in order to pass it on emergency, you need 4 out of 6 to pass it as an emergency, otherwise it goes on first reading.
Right.
So then you may be making your own fate based on that, right?
No, that's
I mean, I
fine.
think with the roof,
Then
you
that's
sound
the-
like you're okay,
That's
but,
democracy.
but that's.
right, well,
the way-
so, right, I'm just pointing that out.
Yep. So you ready, want me to adjourn it, or do we need some more discussion?
After the adjournment, can we
Okay.
break and I'll update the,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
We're not gonna adjourn?
No, we're gonna adjourn for a minute, Denny, then we'll come back for our special meeting to vote on the pieces of legislation. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the COW meeting of October 28th.
Second.
Okay, vote on the motion?
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
No.
you don't want to adjourn? We're voting to adjourn.
Huh?
We're voting to adjourn the COW.
Yeah, no.
You don't want to adjourn. You want to stay in for discussion?
That's
Okay,
fine.
just-
Okay.
Next,
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Whedon, Councilwoman Terlowski.
Yes.
motion passes 5-6 to adjourn
5-0.
this committee of the whole meeting at 9:46 PM.
No, I
Okay,
can't.
we'll take a recess if anybody
We're
has to
still
go to
gonna
the
be live
bathroom.
because I can't pause this. So we're still gonna be live while we're on a little bit of a break, so just, I don't want to pause it and mess it up and we can't get back
To
in.
the people watching, we're just gonna take a short recess and then come back and, have our special council meeting and then conclude. evening. Okay.
John, do you have that other?
Yeah, you want me to bring out a motion?
You can do the motions, you have them just update, put their street names in.
61 out, can you believe that?
What's that?
It's 61 out.
It seemed warmer when we got here than when I
Yeah,
got home.
it was
than
nice
this, you
this
know,
afternoon it got warm.
Yeah.
But I heard on November 3rd, we're supposed to have
Yeah,
mixed
the
snow
temperature is
and
good.
whatever.
It's what?
Is that the temperature?
Yeah. What snow
November 3rd,
on voting day?
no, it's second is
The
the voting
day,
day.
okay, the day after? Oh, at least it'll hold off, because, you know, you don't wanna be outside in the bad weather.
Yeah. Stretch your legs.
Come over, I will go around the flagpole. You with me though? This old man.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, guys. Ladies.
Oh, how you doing, Denny, okay? Yeah, it's getting late. Yes, it is. Remnants of meetings past. 3 hours.
Thought we were done with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Night, Danny. Fred, I think we're still on. I know. You know, we're all the same. We want the best. We want to fix the roads. We want to do that, you know? But you can't, you know, you don't know the future. You know, that, are we gonna be able to pay this debt off, you know? I mean, so we compromise. Let's just do the one streets that our engineers told us are the worst. Fix them. And the roof has been a disaster.
Well, I mean,
thing is the boiler, that's got Band-Aids on it, that's gonna be, you know. We're not out of the woods when that thing goes, what are you gonna do? You know, people can't work in here when there's no heat.
I'm just afraid one good storm.
I don't know what that lady said, did she said she rides her bike down the street? Or she did not?
You want to stay in our guy on?
He left.
In our guy gone?
I couldn't have said that, but I was just frustrated. Pardon? Yeah.
Excuse me.
I mean, we don't know what expenses we're gonna have here just with the people. Like I said, the police officer's retiring. We have to pay the, you know, we have to pay
Yeah,
them
that's $200 I make it.
for that.
All right.
$200.
No, I'm not betting you $200.
I won't bet.
You lost.
Sure.
Ah.
Hey, Denny, you know, you're still on the camera, you know, gambling in
We're
the,
still
gambling in the,
being live.
Okay. We need to spend some money on the acoustics in this room, yeah.
say you're still on live on the camera, you know, you're gambling in the,
Yeah.
What's that?
you're gambling over here, you're still on the camera. You know, they're gonna get you with that.
That's all right.
This morning, Brian and I were here with Soren thinking of all the acoustics. And he,
That's what he was saying.
right, and he accounted for it because we had made a comment that sitting back here, even in talking, it's been, they prefer.
Oh.
Because we wanted to account for John and Don,
Yeah,
who
John.
both tend to sit further back.
John and Gloria, I get, you know, speak so softly and John sits back, yeah.
Lucas Conley was an infantryman guy, you know, that's an infantryman's award there.
Is it?
Yes,
Barton's only
my dad has that.
Huh?
My dad has the infantry, the rifle,
Yeah.
yeah.
We gotta go, next year,
Single star general.
You know, his helmet is in the Bedford Historical Society. Yeah, and it has a bullet in it.
Really?
It really did, yeah. It saved him. I don't know, some kind of ricochet or something, but he had one of those old World War I helmets. It's not mine now, mine's underneath the desk.
Okay, I got a kid waiting for help with the project. Please, let's get out of here soon.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Everybody ready? Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready when
Angela.
you are, because I never stopped anything. I even
Okay.
stopped the recorder, I forgot.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the special council meeting of Thursday, October 28th, 2021 at 9:56 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Allen?
Here.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Here.
Councilman Linville?
Present.
Councilman Spitznagel?
Here.
Councilman Whedon?
Present.
Councilwoman Terlasky?
Here.
All council present, along with our fiscal officer, Angela Reve, and our law solicitor, John Montello. Okay. We have two pieces of legislation on the agenda. What's council's pleasure with item A, ordinance 2021-18?
Mayor Colgrove?
Who's gonna introduce that?
Yes.
No, you were gonna introduce.
Yeah, Mayor Colgrove, I'd like to introduce for suspension, ordinance number 2021-18, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $775,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of improving Dunham Road, Walton Road, Egbert Road, Sagamore Road, Alexander Road, Regency Drive, Rachel Drive, Laurel Drive, Colonial Court, and other streets located within the village between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together with all necessary appurtenances thereto and declaring an emergency.
We just vote on the suspension right now, correct, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Vote on the suspension.
It has to be seconded first.
Yes,
Second.
can someone second? Who's seconding?
Who's seconding? Anybody second the suspension?
Second,
Well, yeah, you have to second it to.
And then they can make the amendment.
then you make the amendment. Second,
Yeah.
on the suspension.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
No.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Whedon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlowski.
Yes.
Okay, so suspension passed, correct, John?
Five,
Yes.
5-6?
five,
Okay.
one, 5-1.
5-1, yep. Okay,
Are we gonna vote on it as read, or
is there an amendment, or are you voting on it as is?
You want me to attempt to make the amendment?
Yeah, it's
I
time.
thought, did you have that?
Who's got the
for that?
motion?
Yes, I just, I would motion to amend.
I typed it out for you, John, where'd it go?
Where's the one that's typed out?
I got you, but it's not, I didn't realize that the other names are in here, so we're gonna change the entire caption, motion to amend it to issue.
You gotta remove Barkley.
Yeah.
And then remove.
Hickory, Tulip, and Chestnut, so you just, and other streets, so you just put that there. I don't know where to go. Of course, we should throw those out.
Their court names is Kelly Ryan. Montreal. And then your amount's still in question.
These roads. These roads.
I don't know why they're out.
What roads? Yes, they are because they're part of original stuff, I think that's always been on there.
That's the way they're prepared.
And it could be because even though this is new money, when they fund it, they're gonna fund it with our refunding money, it's all gonna come in together. That could be why she's got them in there still.
I just wanted to make sure it's not part of 2022
No,
crack
'cause-
ceiling.
no, it's not, well, no, it's on your, here. Dunham, Walton, Egbert, Sagamore, Alexander,
I wanna make sure.
that's on your spot markers.
No, because I think
Yeah.
I do.
Well, this is
There's
for
been
new
so
money,
many-
so that money,
No.
This is new money, that's new money,
Yeah, but-
right.
But this is only for the horseshoe.
So you're, okay, well, then we do have to change other stuff. If you're only gonna vote on the horseshoe and you're not voting on this whole program, so that's what we asked before we left the room. Give us an
It
amount,
was the
tell us,
horseshoe.
whole
okay, so
program,
257,
Three of us. We said the horseshoe, right?
well, Jennifer said the whole road program at one point, so
without Barkley.
we gotta decide.
362.
So, right, so if you change your mind, you don't want the whole road
I'm not
program,
changing my mind, I would just want to be clear on what I'm voting on.
Exactly, I agree.
So,
I'm
let's-
clear what
let's-
I'm voting on.
I understand.
I'm clear what we voted on for suspension, so do you, John, do we have to vote this down before we amend?
No.
No.
no, you're just figuring out your motion to amend.
If you vote on it now, you can vote it down, but if you amend it, then you can vote on the
So Brian, if you're
amendment.
only
Oh,
doing horseshoe,
And then you vote
John, you run
yes.
it.
I get it.
you got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get it. I
Tell them
get
what
it.
to do.
We good? Okay,
Yeah, I'm good.
okay.
The 362?
We're
Yeah,
good.
I
Or the
get it.
400?
We're good.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2021-18 to read, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $400,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of improving Dunham Road, Walton Road, Egbert Road, Sagamore Road, Alexander Road, including Hickory, Tulip, and Chestnut, and other streets located within the village between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second on
Second.
the amendment?
Second. Second.
Second by Mary Brenner Miller. Can we vote on the amendment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Vote on the amendment.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
No.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
No.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
No.
So amendment, so your amendment,
So you voted against the horseshoe and,
No, I want the horse, but
Well,
what's all the other ones?
it's just those crack sealing and repair program that was already on.
Okay, then I
Good.
vote, yes.
should they take a new revote?
We'll revote, I'll retake it, I'll
Let's
retake
hear
it. So we've got Brian with Mary as a second on the amendment as read.
Any
Count-
questions before we go with
Yeah,
the vote?
can we read this for clarity's sake?
Yes,
Please read it again.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance number 2021-18 to read, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $400,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of improving Dunham Road, Walton Road, Egbert Road, Sagamore Road, Alexander Road, including Hickory, Tulip, and Chestnut, and other streets located within the village between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Yes.
okay.
Second by Mary Brenner Miller. Vote on the amendment.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
No.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Okay.
On the amendment.
5-1, amendment passed. Now they vote. Okay. So who makes that, ask for that approval? The original person or the person who made the amendment?
I guess I can make.
So this was not the passing of the amendment, so I'm still not. So we just have passed.
You just passed the amendment. We
Oh,
passed the
you thought we
suspension.
were passing to suspension?
We did suspension already, that was to pass that as
That already
amended.
passed.
To pass the amendment itself. So now we got one more vote on the actual.
Approval of it.
All right.
You voted yes to change it. You want to change your vote to no?
Yes.
Okay, so 4-2, amendment passes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay, and who makes that, the original, or Brian would
I
make,
can
does he
make-
make the amendment?
Yeah,
Okay.
since you- Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2021-18 as amended.
Second.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brendan Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
No.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
5-1.
3-2. 5. No, Mr. Linville voted no also, so 4-2.
Mr. Whedon voted yes.
Oh, gosh, now you're all confusing me. It's so late, I can't
So
keep track.
5-1.
Thank you,
5-1.
okay,
I'm not
okay.
gonna steer you wrong.
It's late. We need coffee.
I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Okay. Okay, we have item number B, ordinance 2021-19, notes, new money, Village Hall Road. Who'd like to introduce that? for suspension.
Okay. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 2021-19, notes, new money for Village Hall roof. Asking for, was it suspension?
Yes.
Suspension.
Second,
Second by Jennifer Allen.
Councilwoman Allen?
yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Mayor, I don't want people to get the idea that I'm just being negative up here, but I think we're moving too fast on this stuff myself, and that's why I'm
So vote
casting my
yes
no
or no.
votes. Huh?
Vote yes or no.
I vote no.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman Spitznagel, sorry. Councilman Whedon.
No.
Councilwoman Terlasky. Okay,
4-2.
so your suspension is 4-2.
No, but it won't pass.
The suspension doesn't pass now.
So it goes on first reading.
Goes on first reading.
Which means, what do you want to do with it after that, I guess, because,
Well, then you can't, they have to go with either a new note or bond it out.
Okay.
So it is what it is.
sorry, my son keeps calling.
Or you gotta vote it down at the next meeting.
Okay,
So it
so
automatically goes on suspension.
it'll go on
Yeah,
first
it goes on first
reading
reading.
to get voted down.
Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Sorry.
Before I make the motion, I just gonna make a comment. I think voting no on suspension doesn't give the body the right to vote, especially in this, so you defeated a lot of
A lot of
conversation.
2.5 hours of conversation, pretty much.
But it is what it is. Because you can pass suspension but still defeat the ordinance, okay? Which still gives the body the right to vote, and you can express your discontent by voting no. But what we've done is we've taken that, moved the suspension, so we will miss the notes. Okay, motion for adjournment?
And Mayor, I noticed you mentioned that I had a right to that, okay?
Oh, no problem. It
Oh, you
wasn't
have a
just
right.
you.
I had a right.
It
Well,
wasn't
you're
just you.
talking like I didn't have the right.
No, you have
you
a
were-
right, you weren't the only one, and I have a right to express my opinion. Since I've been a councilman and mayor, I would never stop a suspension because it limits a vote.
Okay, so we still gotta do adjournment.
Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment.
There's a second.
Second.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yep.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
No.
You don't want to adjourn? Councilman Spitznagel?
Yeah.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Meeting
Councilwoman
adjourned at 10:10.
Terlasky? Adjourned at 10:10, thank you.
Pardon me.